Greetings, salutations, and other big words. My name's Ethan. My handle's Wrangler. Welcome to Frequency Studios. Today, we got some guests with us. First off, we got James Craig, author of Ship of Fools, Faceless, and you got a couple other things out as well as some other things in the work, right?
Yeah, I've got my third book up for pre-order right now. Infinite Money Glitch, a comedic heist, which will be releasing on December 5th.
Cool. In a little while, we'll have to pull that up and take a look at it.
Sure.
And also with us is the only guy who could chug soy by the gallon and still maintain his testosterone, Kiko Man.
Show me, show you, Kikuman.
And also joining us is the bane of the number one IronAge YouTuber's existence, Billy Bobsack. Billy, welcome.
Hello.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Well, I am preparing for a whole bunch of eating tomorrow, since I'm American, and tomorrow we feast.
I went ahead and made.
Are we at tomorrow yet?
A few more hours to go. I'm just going to enjoy my 5 days off.
Bring on the turkey. So, James, start off telling us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know.
Sure, I'm a independently published science fiction author, and I started releasing books at the beginning of this year. I write cyberpunk mostly, you could say that, because my first book, Faceless, the book one of the Bastion Blackstone series, came out last February, and that's been getting some really good reviews this whole time. Back in August, I released a military sci-fi book called Ship of Fools, which takes place in the future of Bastion by about 1,000 years. It's independent. It's not a sequel, but I think it came together pretty damn well. And I'm jumping genres once again for my third book. Like I said, it's a comedic heist. It's set inside a video game with the NPCs are trying to pull one over on the players. And I am trying to support the IronAge now because it is time for an independent movement to succeed.
I agree. That's the whole purpose of this channel now. And then we got Kiko Man, the man who, up till recently, only read manuals and textbooks. He's just taken up reading as a form of entertainment. So tell us how that's going for you, Kiko.
Well, I've been shocked. All of my life, my family tried to get me to do that, but finally I'm getting enough interest to spend hours and hours on end reading. So I guess thank you, James. Thank you, Black Knight, for giving me some good reading material. Hope it will continue.
Yeah, what's neat is those two books, Star Shatter and Faceless, very different genres, very different tones. And it's interesting how they could be so different, yet still suck you in the same.
Yeah, they're both still sci-fi, I think, but very different setting and all of that, which is shocking for me. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. But happy to be supporting the movement as much as I can in my own little soy sauce way.
And Billy Bob, you're our wild card tonight, man. How's it going?
I'm going good. I'm just a dude who likes reading good stories. That's it.
So let's get to chatting about the whole reason we're here, the creative process, getting the ideas from our head into a coherent story on the page. James, how do you usually go about when you get something in your head? How do you go about crafting a novel from that?
So I've gotten in the habit of outlining the idea, but not scene by scene. I don't really understand. Like other writers have these bizarre habits that they swear by, like, oh, I was really inspired to go write the ending, so I skipped forward to the ending. I cannot do that. I must write chronologically every chapter, so I know what causes what causes what causes what. And that's my systematic way to tell a story correctly. Because I don't always know where a character is going to be, what they're going to do, how they're going to react, who they're going to like, and so on. And that's why when I outline, I will take basically like the pitch of the idea, and I start bullet pointing highlights of what will give that life, such as if the premise of the story is uh, a cyberpunk detective finds an unidentified body, I have to go in and highlight the different aspects of that story that will bring that to life. I have to have scenes where he's in the ghetto of the city at the street level, just getting a look at what the place is like. I need to introduce Eve, the AI that rules the city, and more accurately operates the city. I have to introduce a conflict between his boss's desires and his desires, because the main character is supposed to be a heroic guy, and he has more of a sense of like ground level justice that he's trying to bring out, rather than like procedural. We've got quotas. I can't have you wasting money, et cetera, et cetera. And then after I get those bullet points, so like the ideas of it, I don't necessarily know what order I'm going to use them in, because I let the flow of character actions determine that, because there has to be a shape to pacing, and different ideas lend themselves to different moments. And I try and just build it from there.
Yeah, I sometimes at some point I have to follow that similar type of pattern, but I've started off with as oversimplified as this sounds, a setting where it begins, where it ends, and then I start thinking, all right, how do I get from A to Z? And then from there, I'll sometimes get random ideas. Hey, when in this area, this might happen, and I'll write out a whole scene that by the time I get there, it might not even apply anymore. I've scrapped entire scenes, put them aside. It's like, well, there's some cool choreographing that fight scene, but that's not happening. So I'll just save it and put it aside. Maybe I could use that for something else. But for the most part, once I get an idea of how the character is going to go from the beginning and how they get to the results at the end, then yeah, I'll sit there and write, okay, this happens, that happens, just like a skeletal version of it. It's like they go here, deal with that, go here, deal with that. And now I got my plot, but I still don't think I have a story. The story is, how does this affect the characters? Where was a character at the beginning versus where they'll be at the end? In what ways will this affect the character? What kind of mistakes will they make? What will they learn? How will they grow? To me, that's the story. The plot is just the path that the story took to get to the end.
It's fair enough.
But
the character's reaction to the plot, because there are some stories out there that are plot driven. I think the classic example is like most Mission Impossibles or that kind of spy thriller. You do basically have to structure out like, well, this thing that everyone wants, getting the ring to Mordor in Lord of the Rings. If you have the map of Middle Earth and you have where they start and where they go, you therefore know the plot, because they literally have to go through each of these spots, and when they're there, they're going to encounter the things that are there. So the outline makes itself based on the map, basically. And that's where you get into the character's reactions to the plot of where the story is, because Lord of the Rings wouldn't be memorable if it didn't take such a toll on Frodo and Sam as they're trying all by themselves.
Yeah. So when you hit snags, how do you usually deal with it? Like whether it be a writer's block or I know what I want to convey here, I don't know how to make it happen properly. I mean, how do you deal with things when you run into that?
Well, if that's in draft one, I just accept that I do it badly, and then I leave a note for myself of why I think it's bad, so that hopefully when I come back in 4 months or whatever to edit, I will have figured out how to do it properly. Say I structured the story such that there's like 3 blocks of plot based on different areas of the city he's in, and I want to highlight different aspects, such as like a strip club he goes to show what the state of debauchery is in this cyberpunk city. I completely rewrote his character motivation and behavior for being in the strip club from draft 1 to draft 3 because it didn't fit the development and the shape of the story arc I wanted for Detective Blackstone. But that didn't change the plot. So, that first draft that I just struggled through, I still was able to recover a lot of it. The side characters, the description of the rooms, you can pretty much save all that. So you at least have that to console yourself with. Even if you look at it and you go, man, he probably shouldn't be walking in grinning right now because he's supposed to be fighting with his wife.
Yeah.
So, James, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So, when did you start writing? What inspired you to write? Like, assume a complete beginner phase. Okay, I have an idea in my head. I want to write it. What was your thought process to get there?
So my specific journey, I've been writing and telling stories for my entire life. And the actual act of typing the words out into novels has been on and off for like years at a time.
Wait, when you say your entire life, like when did you first put hands on keyboard, hands on pencil, or whatever?
I don't know. I was probably 8.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's awesome.
I wasn't good at it.
Right, but you had the motivation starting back then.
Yep.
If you don't mind my asking, how old are you now?
Right now, right this instant, 28.
Not even 30. You got 3 books out already, and more than that's awesome, man. You're way ahead of me.
Yeah, so actually, that kind of happened with me. Of right when COVID started, I looked at it and I was like, man, I have been writing, like actively writing, for probably almost 6 years at that point. Because, like I said, a lot of time not spent writing or just playing Dungeons and Dragons or something. I had all these years, and I graduated from college. I'd gotten a job and such, and I hadn't gotten published. I was like, I've been trying to do this my entire life. I just haven't done it. What is wrong with me? COVID gave me a bunch of time. I got off my ass and I did it. And part of that was hearing stories from. I'm a huge weeb. I like anime and manga a lot. And there are just these world famous mangaka, like a guy who does. Sorry, dog attack. The author of Attack on Titan and the author of Chainsaw Man. They're like 23.
Wow.
And I was just like, these guys are at the absolute pinnacle of their field, 5 years younger than me. These people committed to it. They dove in on their passion, and why didn't I? So I stopped wasting time.
So, in your opinion, those 2 authors that you mentioned with Attack on Titan and the Chainsaw Man, I don't know about their backgrounds, but they just had a passion for that specific story, in your view? Just wrote it down and it blew up out of popularity? Or did they try to cater to the what's popular now? Or
So I like using those 2 as examples because both of them wrote incredibly unique stories. There's obvious elements of like, yes, you can see why these would be popular. It has this element, this element, this element, but they're remixed. Another, just as an example that I'm going to lose the viewers on, but like if you know Black Clover, it's literally just a reskin and redo of Fairy Tale. Mm-hmm. And guess what? The second guy to do that exact story of magical wizards in a wizarding guild going on adventures, he did it the second time. He did it better because he had a reference material. It's really freaking popular. I think they're both trash. But it's incredibly famous because it has a built-in audience because people know what they're able to get into and all that. But Attack on Titan hit huge popularity because it constantly just shocks people. No one could see how the story was ever going to be progressing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they are genuinely just outstanding at what they did and accomplished. And the reason they were able to accomplish it, I think, comes down a lot to the structure of the creative industry in Japan. I think it is significantly healthier compared to anything in the West. There's actual networking. There's actual ways to like filter in from the masses and pull people up and get them in situations where they can focus on their art. Obviously, they don't make a bunch of money in the beginning. You hear stories about even Oda, the most popular mangaka of all time, uh, getting hospitalized from overworking himself. There's problems with the industry, but the good writers do rise to the top because the industry is trying to pull them up rather than gatekeeping for, say, ideological reasons.
Right, and you might be the wrong person to ask this, but do you think there are more indies per capita in Japan that are trying to get their story, their novel, to a manga, to an anime than there are in the US?
That's my impression. It's
Hmm.
not that I have any data to back that up at all, but like you look at their pop stories, the classic trope of anime is they're in a high school, right?
Hmm.
And it's incredibly common that characters in the high school setting, which is supposed to just be like normal kids, they're in manga clubs. They're writing doujin series. They are trying to, they'll be in school newspapers with manga panels and such to support the creative pursuits. I don't know about you guys, but here in America, nobody had that at school. School was was a nightmare for the creatives, essentially.
Well, let alone school. Like, so Japan is not like that much, car driven. It's mostly public transportation. So you don't have as many gas stations, but you have as many convenience stores, and every fucking sorry,
Forgiven.
every convenience store has a manga section where you have students and children from, I don't know, 12 to 18, even in college, just stop by and read manga at the convenience store, which is something unimaginable in the United States. I think that breeds
Right.
perpetual interest in that.
To a point, when I was a teenager, I used to stop in convenience stores, go up to that circular spinning rack full of comic books, pick
Hmm.
one up, read through, and if I got interested, I would buy it. And sometimes, yes, I was that guy. I'd pick it up, read through, and put it back on the rack. And I'm not proud of that.
So part of the
But yeah,
difference
that does seem to have gone to the wayside.
part of the difference there is you have to look at a volume of manga. If you sit down and read it, is like half an hour. Like they're not like books. If you buy a small book, you're looking at 7 hours of your life possibly. So you do need to compare it to a comic book issue. And DC and Marvel never broke out of the we are marketed towards 10 to 30-year-old men slash boys. Uh, yeah, sure, they tried to get girls in, but they never really wrote genuinely mature stories, in my opinion. They never tried to target like 40-year-olds.
They
So
did with their Marvel Max series, but I don't think that landed too well. I'm not certain on that. Don't quote me, but I don't think is that series still around. Does anybody know?
couldn't tell you.
Yeah. So Kiko, you're an engineer, so it would be interesting to hear your take on a creative process. You design equipment. How do you get ideas from your head into reality?
Oof, that's a deep topic. So first of all, I'm already, I guess, plagiarizing existing processes that I'm aware of. I'm specializing in automation specifically. So I'm trying to find areas with the most labor spent and the least efficient areas first. So I start by mapping out the whole area of the manufacturing process of interest and try to identify the least efficient
Sorry,
process.
you garbled for just a moment there. If you say the
Oh,
last sentence again.
yeah. So within a manufacturing area, I try to identify the least efficient process, and I try to figure out how can I start to reduce the labor issues there, the quality issues that come about, the scrap issues, and start to just envision the whole process from scratch. Of course, I solicit opinions from specialists who worked in those areas for many years, or be there line engineers, technicians, and product builders who actually build the product, and start to kind of formulate a high level idea. Then I solicit more resources to kind of understand how you can streamline it. But then suddenly, through brainstorming processes with all of these people and just brainstorming ideas, we start to formulate a completely new concept of how you can build this new process that would be automated, more efficient, and all of that. And once you start to put it on paper, slowly it becomes from an image in your mind, it rolls down to a CAD model, a 3D model of the machine, and eventually all the way up to a production piece of equipment. Of course, usually the production piece of equipment comes with bugs and things we couldn't foresee. I think just like novels, I'm sure, but very different, but I guess a bit similar. Starts with a vision, start with identifying an issue, something that people might be interested in, although mine is a bit more specific.
Yeah, so do you sometimes draw inspiration for what may work just by watching what's the physical movements a person would go through to make that happen, and then go,
Oh yeah,
okay,
absolutely, yeah.
it's like, well, he's got to walk from point A to point B, but if I just have a conveyor that picks up and goes across and drops, I can eliminate that part.
Yep, and into much deeper level, but it all starts by observing what's the current thing that's going on and how can I make it better. But I also draw inspiration from other manufacturing processes. So, for example, I'm in medical device, but I will look at a metal fabrication, rubber fabrication, things like that, to draw inspirations of other things that have been done before. Yeah, I
Cool.
guess.
And Billy Bob,
Yeah.
you, from what I understand, I don't think you have anything that you're writing or anything, but you
I'm in
strike me as a, huh?
I'm in very early stages of it.
Oh, are you? Oh, excellent. So get to hear your perspective, your take on it as you're starting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to got the idea for the story. And, it ain't fully planned out or anything at all. It's just thought on it. And I want to do my world building, get that based out, you know, context in your story, and move on to your characters and stuff. It's kind of what I'm doing.
So to go off of Kikuman stuff a bit, because I'm also an engineer, and I have seen that the engineering mindset can translate over to the creative process a bit. When you know what has to happen, you can map out like, okay, so the detective needs to catch the killer. Uh, the killer probably is going to be caught because of his own flaws, his own hubris, something he overlooked, which means that the detective has to be in the right spot to catch the clue so that he can put the pieces of the puzzle together. And from that skeleton, you can build out. Well, because I know this is the character, and because I know this is the setting, the clue would end up in somewhere like over here, and so on. And you can just build it out of like literally knowing how the things work constrains what you can possibly do to accomplish the objective. Because like obviously you can just include a scene that accomplishes nothing, He could have an entire plot arc where he detours playing hooky with a friend, basically. But you wouldn't want that in the stories. It doesn't accomplish the objective. That would be like taking out a production line to put in a new break area or something. People might like the break area, but you probably shouldn't do that. You'd screw up the factory.
Yeah.
But James, also to your point, you should also probably examine the detective tools themselves, right? Whether it's forensic evidence or fingerprint powder and all of that, to see how you can improve those tools themselves.
Right. Oh, that's what I mean. Also, as part of, I think part of what people mean when they say creative is the consumer will get an impression of creativity from a story if it surprises them, but is still justified. And I think a simple way of thinking about that is you have to accomplish the objective of the story in a way that is believable and is not the immediate first way that the reader thought to do it. This is actually my big complaint about the Dresden Files, which everyone seems to like the Dresden Files. They're good, but book one, I keep saying, is like if someone told you the premise of Harry Dresden is a low-powered wizard in Chicago solving supernatural crime, if you just like took a guess what the story was, you would hit book one nail on the head. Absolute bullseye. It is the first thing you would ever think of given that explanation. And that's my problem with Dresden Files was it felt so obvious. And obviously he's had like 18 books in the series and he's gotten a lot better with it, or so I'm told. But that's because as it went on, he started doing the stories and the plots in ways that the reader isn't going to instantly guess is how to do it. And that's where you can get the impression of creativity because it still is accomplishing the objective. It's still a murder mystery plot where the detective finds the clues and gets pressured by gangsters into, ignoring certain things and going other places and so on. All the bones are still there and familiar, but you're surprising the reader. And that's what people are looking for.
And at the same time, when you're building a sci-fi or fantasy world, you get to make some of your own rules as far as physics go. And so a combination of that with what would be a little more mundane sometimes allows for some surprises to come out, I think.
Absolutely. I get a lot of fun from doing things like the AI overlord of the city is actually a very pleasant person. She is not out there to turn people into Soylent Green. The government's probably doing that anyways, but it's not the AI. And that causes a big twist, surprise, and perception for the story.
James, if I may, before we jump too deep into AI, because I have thoughts on that, a lot of thoughts on that, but in your creative process, especially that you mentioned that you're an engineer, do you put constraints on yourself in terms of schedule, time?
Are you talking about like me, the author?
Yes, like
I keep a daily target of 2,000 words written a day. And it gets pretty fuzzy when it gets into the realm of like editing or jumping on YouTube channels to market or something. But as long as I've gotten 1,000 words a day, I call it good. And if I'm hitting 2,000 words a day every day, that's a full manuscript in a little over a month.
And it is National Write a Book Month.
Yeah, and I am on pace for that quite handily.
No, but less about the words, more like, okay, this is just as an example, we talked about AI. I will not cross this boundary when it comes to AI.
So you're talking about constraints of how it works in the setting?
Yes, like if you start to write a book idea, do you put limiters to yourself in terms of, let's say, I will not speak about this topic, this is way and beyond the book, or
Yeah, obviously.
Theories of physics. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So there's a common thing called world builders disease that a lot of writers get, where they want to just keep making lore for their world because, oh my god, it's so cool, and clearly everyone wants to know about the inheritance schedule, the elven royalty in 3 kingdoms over, and why it's interesting that divorces don't work. You don't include that in a good story. You might need to explore that to get ideas and to get the juices flowing and all that. And it's good that you know that, such as with my epic fantasy web novel series. Uh, I did want to explore different marriage traditions, and in the main kingdom, instead of husband and wife pairs, it's actually like a family unit. Is how the kids are raised, where all the sisters stay sisters and families, and they marry husbands into the group, and they raise their kids communally.
Hey, James, can you do me a favor? Send me a link to that web series. I want to put that on screen.
Sure.
And while you're grabbing that, let's talk to the chat real quick. We got Asher Burnett, who started off saying hail. And, of course, Kikoman, who loves to double dip. Hello, all. Got Timo Burnham. Howdy, boys. Asher's greeting him. R.C. Scott, I am here. And then I had this up a moment ago. I never read the Dresden Files, and I'm from Chicago. Don't feel bad. I haven't either. I probably should. And see, Asher says, I'm currently reading Codex Alara and planning to read Dresden soon. RC said, I'm reading a short story collection by Ramsey Campbell. Soylent Green is people. And let's see, got Billy Bob Sack double dipping, dun dun dun. 500 words a day, he muttered. That 500 word more than G.R.R. Martin. So that was, of course, that is from our resident wild card. See, my lazy brain flinches at world building. I have to be really into the story and don't like filler.
I assume R.C. Scott means as the reader.
Yes,
which I
that's what I'm assuming as well.
I think it's
Nikolai Powell. Hey guys.
I think it's appropriate, when the world building's in the story. If it's not going off the path from whatever plot or detail or anything.
Yeah, so the most indulgent I've ever been with my writing in regards to world building comes at the climax of the first plot arc in my fantasy series. And the first plot arc is a rebellion. The locals are trying to throw out the colonizers, and they're fighting eventually over basically the palace and the port city. And when the antagonist and the protagonist finally get face to face, swords drawn, ready to cut each other down, I pause everything for like half a chapter as the narrator explains all the history of the throne, like specifically the seat of power in the palace that everyone is fighting over. And I gave it like half a chapter of like why it's shaped the way it is, where they got the wood, who gave it to them, why it's important, why the king tracks these kinds of things, and all that, what the cultural background to it, because that is what the entire plot arc was about. Was they wanted to be the one sitting on that throne.
Okay, was it
during the
climax or was it after the climax?
It was before their duel. It was they right when they had just squared off with each other and were about to stab each other to death.
Okay. I asked if Nikolai wants to come on. He's writing. He wrote.
Yeah, he said sorry, can't join today.
Oh, okay.
Which fair enough. I don't think he had any heads up. I already sent him a link.
No, it's probably very late for his time at this point.
He says he's gonna listen to us as he falls asleep. Well, we're glad we can send you off to Dreamland, Nikolai.
Okay, so don't randomly start screaming. Got it.
You hear that, Kiko, man?
Okay, so we got Undying Emperor here. There we go. The Undying Emperor, Grand Conquest Fantasy. This is the web series?
Yep. I
release
walk us through it every week.
Every week?
Yep.
You are a busy guy. That impresses me. I'll spend like almost a year putting one story together.
Is he the bad guy?
You just seem to bleed stories, dude.
I try. It helps that the web novel, I pretty much can crank it out in one draft and call it good. What was the question, Billy?
I said, is he the bad guy?
He's the one conquering the world. So my question is Napoleon the antagonist of his own story?
That is interesting. You want to walk us through the page here?
I mean, I think that the best pitch for the story, actually, if you scroll down to the chapters and you click Act 1, there's a chapter literally called Act 1, A Hero Fabricated.
It's right there. Go down, 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 down. There you go. Oh, back up.
There we go. Yep.
This is a one-page foreword written by the narrator of the story. Because I really actually have always been taken with the idea from Tolkien of There and Back Again, written by Bilbo Baggins. That the story is written by one of the characters after it occurred.
That's cool perspective, and we don't see that very often. But.
So there's a whole lot of unreliable narrator in there too.
Excuse me, sir, but the wizard behind the scenes is an entirely reliable narrator. Why would you think otherwise? Just because he has his own agenda and is the only one who has a say of what's being written down.
It's like the Maceers from Throne of Ice and Fire. You could totally trust them, this whole entire organization.
Let's see. Who did your artwork?
A guy I met through an art commission server on Discord. I think he did a pretty fantastic job with the outfit, yeah.
Timo asked, Timo Burnham says, you looking for people who've written to come on?
Who was that?
He's in the chat.
Oh, sure. Hang on. I'll send you a link in the Gilded.
So Kikamon, to give you another example, though, to address your earlier question, because you read Faceless, you know Bastion, you know it's a walled city that people aren't allowed to leave.
Yep.
Do you know why they aren't allowed to leave it?
Kind of got the gist that there's another sort of empire outside, and there is rapid degradation and disease outside of the city walls.
You've taken some good guesses at it, but nowhere in Faceless does it actually say why everyone has been crammed into this megacity. And that was by design, because it doesn't really impact the murder mystery at all.
Right.
So I know why they're in the city, but I didn't think it was appropriate to the introduction here. And I completely left it out. I wanted it as a mysterious hook for future books because, you know, the sequel that's coming out next year, one of the criminal that Detective Blackstone is trying to catch, what the criminal is trying to do is escape the city. He's trying to go live with the Survivor Enclave.
James?
Yes?
Are you Brandon Sanderson in disguise?
No, I'm not Mormon.
Well, a new challenger has entered the arena. Timo Burnham, welcome. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing all right. And for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
I'm just a guy who's written a couple stories. Likes telling stories. Don't really like writing, but I like having written.
So
I'm right there with you.
Bella, right?
Yeah, I've got an actual novel too, but yeah, several Vela stories.
You should get Wrangler your link.
You can start off by popping over a link to me, and I'll put it on screen. We'll check it out.
One of the Vela stories or the novel?
Whichever. We could do both. novellas or the novel, whichever you want to address first.
Okay.
So Billy, you're working on you're getting into the writing and you're working on a story, correct?
Yes.
What kind of genre are you looking into? What kind of adventure or mystery or what you got going on?
Horror.
Horror. Supernatural or more a mundane thriller?
Vampires, so supernatural, I guess.
All right. I don't know how much you want to say about it at this time because I know you're like new in the process. I don't know if there's stuff you don't want to accidentally give away, and my battery's about to die. Hang on. Okay.
Like I said, I'm very early stages, just starting to write kind of a little bit of the world building so I can establish some stuff. Then I want to move on to the characters and start outlining the story.
Okay. And I have a link.
Kiko Man, when is your Kiko Man comic supposed to come out?
Well, good luck with that. No, I'm just plagiarizing the 20-year-old animation I've seen.
I'm waiting for that. I mean, you got the creative brain in you, so I'm waiting for that to translate over into your own into an inspiration for your own character here. But here we have oops, Ascent of Mount Garum. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
The Masters
That's
of is it Hio or Hiu?
right. So the word would be like pronounced like breathing, so it'd be more like ho.
Oh,
So before, I don't know anything about this, but right away from the image, it looks like a pan with a pancake that looks like a moon with an engraving of a samurai on it.
I think that's what it is.
Pikamon's got food on the brain.
He's talking
That looks like Rurouni Kenshin.
well,
to
the
me.
moon is made of cheese, and now I'm hungry.
Yeah, definitely in that picture it is.
Yeah. All right. So anyway. Okay. So, all right. Want to walk us through that?
Through
The Ascent
Talk-
of Mount Garum, the
talking about the
page
story.
here? Yeah, just give us a bit of pitch. What you got going on here?
Yeah, so it's sort of my like one sentence pitch, I guess, is it's my version of a kind of shonen anime story, if you understand what that is like, where it's generally the story of like, you know, it could be a girl, but it's usually like a guy, like a boy,
Yeah.
and he goes on this journey of sort of leveling up, if you will. Usually there's like several arcs to the way the story plays out, and he'll get stronger, get new abilities, stuff like that, and you know, fight bigger and badder bad guys as he goes
Nice.
along.
That's fun. I like it when someone starts out like borderline helpless, but has the guts to try and pull through. And as they go, they just like gain an ability and become. Yeah, that's the Metroid fan in me, though.
Yeah, I definitely I like that sort of video game ish thing, but I don't like it enough to write like a lit RPG, like something where it's explicit. I like it to be a little more like not, you know, spelled out like, oh, he gained a level and he's now level 3. It's
Oh
more
yeah,
yeah, you know,
yeah. But,
that's
and usually the best thing to do is they gain something. You see that like maybe a significant event that shows where they're gaining something, but it doesn't explain it. You just see the difference in what they do from then on. That shows the difference.
yeah, exactly. And that's how I kind of built the like magic system in this world from that, because that was what I knew I wanted to do. I was like, I want a magic system that kind of feels like you're leveling up in a video game, but it's not like super like, you know, level 1, level 2, level 3. But at the same time, you kind of get that sense of like he's stronger. He's book 2 now. He's gained these strengths, and now he has certain abilities that he didn't have in book 1 and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you have a good solid like a hard magic system in here.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty hard. I tend to lean towards harder kind of magic systems in my stories.
As do I. In fact, my novel was originally intended as an idea for a video game. It just turned into something else entirely. But hey, for those that are just listening, let me go over the words on the screen here. It says, when young Ryu's life is violently ripped away, a chance meeting with a powerful and mysterious stranger gives him hope for a new life. Now he must make the journey to the great mountain Garin. If he can reach the top and pass the entrance test, he will be accepted and trained by the greatest of all warriors. But the trip is dangerous, and the climb up the mountain is a lethal challenge for many. Does Ryu have the strength of body and spirit, or will he fall like so many others?
Yeah,
That's a good blurb right there.
Thank you.
So
And-
everybody loves progression fantasy. 0 to Hero is top tier.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy progression fantasy.
Out of curiosity, have you ever read Solo Leveling?
I have not. I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Okay. If you want a very well drawn action sequence with no plot to it whatsoever, I'd recommend it.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, just because we mentioned the moon being made of cheese, I would like to present proof.
Well, there it is.
And it's tasty.
Hashtag
The moon is delicious. So what got you into writing originally, Timo?
I think the main thing was just getting frustrated that I couldn't find stories that I like to read. And that kind of eventually just, I gave up, I guess, at a certain point and decided I would just try writing my own. So that was, I think, the main thing. Many years ago, I tried writing just little bits, but I was like in high school, and how you are in high school, you just try stuff, but you're not really that committed. It didn't really go anywhere, and then I hadn't even thought of it for years and years and years, and then with the lockdowns, I was thinking about it before, but with the lockdowns, I suddenly had a bunch of free time, and I was like, well, maybe I should actually seriously try this. And that was when I started really trying to write.
I'm starting to notice a really common theme here. James, you started right around the lockdowns. You started with the lockdowns. I started mine like just before the lockdowns, and when they started hitting, I was like, well, this might be advantageous for my project. So it's like, it's weird. It's like during the lockdowns, we all started just putting pen to paper, so to speak.
So I this might be controversial, but I don't think it was the free time. I think it was isolation-induced introspection, at least, or maybe I'm projecting.
You're probably a little hitting the nail a little closer to the head than some of us want to admit. But
A lot of people sat around bored and they thought about their life and how they got where they were, and obviously whether they were handling a world-ending pandemic correctly. And I think a lot of people went, why aren't I pursuing this passion that's been with me and I've just ignored for so long?
I think it also
Bunch of new writers.
to how much bad entertainment we've had for quite a while now, finally building up, inspiring people to also just want to try to do better.
yeah.
Getting
Hey, Billy, can you turn your input up a little bit? You're kind of quiet.
let me see. That work?
Well, I definitely heard the windows chime. But
Yeah, I might have to plug in my mic.
So I think there's actually something strange to be said about the state of stories, essentially.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are fairly saying that like Hollywood is trash. But when you change the paradigm, the medium back to literature, I think it's fair to say that a 1960s movie is a drag to watch nowadays. I don't care how well written they were in the 60s. They are physically slow movies that aren't shot very well. The actual cinematography techniques of cinematography have advanced in the last 60 years. Uh, I can't go back and watch an old movie. I can, however, go back and read an old book. Even
Yeah,
though
you got a point
literature has
there.
gotten better, like the actual techniques and strategies of literature have gotten better in the last 60 years, but it isn't intolerable. So
Right.
you can go back to the entire English canon for entertainment.
Yeah, I've noticed that's very similar in video games. I mean, for example, I'll use Metroid as the example again because that's like my favorite series. I used to play the original Metroid on NES, and I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I actually get to the point, and other people couldn't believe me, that I would finish the game without losing a life at all. I didn't have to go back to my checkpoint or type in at that time, type in like this long passcode to get back to a certain area. But I would make it through without losing a single life. And now, if I go back, I went back and tried to play that again recently, and I'm like, this is horrible. I mean, just because things have gotten so incredibly better that we try and go back, and it was great at the time, but it didn't stand up to the test of time. So much so where it was so cool, but it didn't work quite anymore. So they remade it with the new hardware and as the remake known as Zero Mission, and it was awesome.
Yeah, so I think you just went too far back. I think video games hit a peak in like the 2000s. And if you go to like the 90s and the 80s, you'll have trouble. Um, I think the actual gameplay experience, the best games ever came out at like 2010. And we've been on a downward slope ever since,
I don't know. I really enjoyed Doom Eternal's gameplay.
with a few standout exceptions. A few exceptions. Uh, but I think generally speaking, if you go back to games from like 2010, that was the era of Halo 3, which is still one of the best shooters to ever release.
Yep. A friend of mine's a Halo fan. That is still his favorite.
Whereas if you look at
Frequency
AAA
message.
studio games,
What was that?
Frequency
Go ahead,
message. I drink with crazy. He's available, I think.
Oh, okay.
With
Hang on a
this-
sec. Let's get a.
He's trying to sniff you, Brown nose up to you.
I had to copy the link there.
He's a proper Ferengi.
So, I guess here's a question for you. I've constantly had, I guess, dreams, ideas, or fantasies about um, creating some sort of a novel or something around, like StarCraft Zerg or prototype type of deal. But trying to think of how can a single biological alien organism overtake a planet and ended up with that biological organism taking over the planet as a series ending up with humanity losing. I never thought it could be a good book, or I don't even know how to start. What are you guys' thoughts about that?
well, first question is this would be your first book, right?
Well, I never even tried to start a
Yeah.
book, but
Okay.
it would have been. Yeah.
So my first thing I would say is write it. It doesn't matter. Everyone's first book is bad. But you will never write a good book if you don't write that bad first book.
But do you mean just put up a Microsoft Word and start typing?
Yeah. Yeah, just start with tell the story linearly. Start, from what you just described, you just start with sentence one, on November 23rd, 2022, the germ arrived. I mean, you just explore what happened. And what you'll want to do is you want to explore the plot actions from a couple different perspective characters, which will show you what you have to do to like establish a character. And what you want to try and see is if you can create a lens of perspective for those different characters. Because you are supposed to be seeing the world through the perspective of whoever you're following. But you could go to an older format like a Frank Herbert Dune type of omniscience and just give the reader all the info that's in everyone's heads at all times, and just progress the events and play it out with the struggles that are going on, and just do it. That's what I say. Like there are some more advanced things to consider. Like you need to establish a character. You need to think about what makes the reader like that character. You know why they're invested with one outcome and who is opposing them to give that resistance. Because I actually have you ever seen the sad cat dance meme?
I don't think so.
All right, well, I don't think we can link it, but the premise of the meme got really popular because it was an excuse for animators to draw like anime girls dancing. But I think the reason it caught on really good was because like it's a meme with a story of very simply, guy wants his girlfriend to put on cat ears and dance for him. She doesn't want to. He begs, she gives in, lewd dance ensues. And it's that desire and resistance that actually is the foundation of a story. Because, like, if you just have a character who's hungry and he walks to the fridge and gets food, that's not a story. But if he's hungry and he tries to go to his fridge only to find that an excavator has demolished the kitchen, and he has to go on a journey and get in a fight with the government because he's trying to knock down his house for a new free pass. And he still just wants some Waffle House hash browns or something.
Your clarity is fading.
Okay, what just me?
What was that?
The character's desire has to be resisted. There has to be a reason they have to struggle to get what they want, and that's the essence of the story. But I honestly say you don't need to worry about that in your first book. You need to just do it and look at your crap objectively, because it's going to be crap. There is no amount of teaching and education that will fix it. It's just going to be bad.
Now, addressing that, Asher, I can't speak tonight. My apologies. Asher Brunnett says, I've written 2 full books already. Both were terrible. Both have long since been shelved. The one I'm working on now, I hope to be able to publish eventually. So, I've written stuff that, hadn't never saw the light of day, and looking back, glad it didn't. But I'm glad I made those attempts. But going down a little bit further, the man who actually put us all in contact, Royce, a.k.a. A Drink with Crazy, asking, how is everyone? And to you, Royce, I ask, what are you drinking? He's usually a beer around this hour, I think, right? There's coffee during the day, beer at night he does.
Yep.
What did I just hear hit?
What was that?
So what did I hear hit? Something hit in the background.
I think that was me. I actually banged my desk.
Yeah, there was an author banging his head against the keyboard trying to get the ideas to fall out.
Yeah.
Timo, what's your creative process? How do you get the ideas from your head onto the page? How do you organize it? What do you usually do to get going?
Well, I was gonna address his question just real quick, and then I can talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that.
I mean, my advice would be to, if you can, probably just write one character, because it's simpler. But I mean, if you want to write more, do what you want to do, but then just write, and don't worry about, because there's a lot of things that when you're experienced, you're thinking about when you're writing. But you should not think about any of those things when you're first doing it because your brain can't handle it because you're completely new. So the best thing to do is just to write it. Just write. It's gonna probably be bad, but that's fine. And as you're writing it, you're gonna learn a whole bunch of stuff, and that's the most helpful part. Because you're never gonna get any better until you just write it and then finish, and then you can look back and say, oh wow, now I understand how you do like a character arc, or how you have conflict in a scene, and all that stuff. But if you're thinking about that when you're first trying to write, I think you're just going to get stuck and never get anywhere.
But also remember that, the more experience you get later on, you can always revisit them stories and
Yeah, you can always
shape
come
them
back
up.
and rewrite and edit or whatever. So
What I like is when you start writing something, and now that it's on paper, you get a little clearer idea of what's going on. And sometimes your story ends up going in places you never thought you could. You never thought it would go. It like takes you by surprise. So it's like,
And Kiko, man, your idea sounds really good for a lot of short stories that you can eventually collect and put together and stuff. If you're wanting to have it like an alien invasion, they win, but you can have it, short stories from different perspectives on the planet.
Yeah, but
Different
but
characters.
at least in my head, it's only like the one character, which is kind of like a hive mind invading, not necessarily focused on character development or anything like that. But again, I know nothing about that.
well, any
well-
story can work. It's just about the execution.
Right.
Yeah. And as
The
you're
more-
reading more,
Yeah.
it actually seems to fire off your brain and send it into different directions and new creative pathways that you didn't even know existed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially if you're reading many different types of stories, not all the same genre, which was one of my issues. I was always stuck in. Believe it or not, I rarely even read sci-fi, even though that's my favorite genre. I read mostly fantasy. I didn't start reading until I was late teens. And it's funny, this is going to bring us back to what James mentioned earlier. I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, and the DM is the one who got me to actually start reading. Like, people tried to get me to read my whole life, especially in school. They wanted me to do book reports. I blew them all off. How I got through school, I don't know. But I didn't start reading until then, and that's what started putting me in this direction.
Personally, I think you don't need to read strictly your own genre. Unless you're writing something extremely formulaic by expectation. If you're reading fantasy or mystery or horror or whatever, you're still going to be enriching yourself enough for whatever it is whatever story you want to tell. Don't beat yourself up about not reading a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah. But, I mean, at one point I tried to deliberately just expand my horizons. So I picked up a book that I would not have ever, I had no interest in it. I thought, I'm going to give this a chance and see if, this can pull me in. Turns out a Harlequin romance novel does not work for me because I got 2 chapters in and I was like, I'm done.
I want to tweak Philip's statement to be more optimistic. I know people say write what you know. I much prefer learn what you want to write. If you want to have a character who is an underwater welder who works on an oil rig, you don't need to be an underwater welder who lives on an oil rig. You can go learn that because it sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah, I think I would say
Well-
write what you're interested in.
Well, can you put me next to Trippy?
Can I do that? I didn't even see you there, Trippy.
No.
I didn't
no,
realize
no.
I could scroll down.
Move
How long
Billy
have you been
over
waiting
one
there?
more.
One more.
Hello.
One more.
I didn't see you there, Trippy. But
No.
I didn't realize I
Make sure Royce's ass facing Trippy.
Oh, you put that back. I didn't even. Dang it,
There
Billy
we
Bob
go.
Sack.
Hold up, Royce was in the chat. It was the perfect time to bring it back.
Yeah, how long have you been waiting there, Trippy? I didn't even see you. It turns out, like I said, still learning where all the
Royce
buttons
is
are.
trying to get in.
Oh, is
I
he?
just got here. Like I set up my mask. Can you hear me? Yeah, everything's all good.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, making sure.
Yep,
Yeah, I
you're
just set this
fine,
up.
Trippy.
So
Hey, Frequency, are you?
I thought you'd
limited
have
with
to approve
people?
me before coming in here, but no, I just clicked join and like, hi.
Yeah, it just popped up,
Here
and
now.
I was like, "Is that why? Why is that little thing flickering at the bottom?" I scrolled up, and there you were. Did you say Royce was trying to get into?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
I'll jump off. You said you can only handle 6 people,
It will
so
only allow me 6. You sure?
enjoy,
All right.
Royce.
Well, Kiko, thank you so much for joining. Let's see if I can. All right, now if he tries to hop in here, I should have room to let it in. Yeah, the way I'm set up, I can only do 6 at a time. So
It's kind of weird.
Oh, and you gotta tell Royce it's PG in here.
So, on the tangential subject of the creative process, I actually have an article I submitted to IronAge Media, which will be getting uploaded on Monday.
oh, nice.
Because I figure there are a lot of people like Kikomon who are going to be curious about behind the scenes. And one of the notable things I wanted to address with the article is how long should people expect this to take off? And what I specifically laid out was a timeline of how long it takes for it. If you start today and you go, I have a great idea for a story, how long until you can sell that story? And by my process, which is a safe process, in my opinion, that produces a quality product and allows you to work multiple projects at the same time, it does, however, take like almost a full year to go from the day that you are inspired to start to the day it is for sale. So even if 1,000 people are, jumping at the chains right now, trying to take off and join the IronAge, we really shouldn't expect a flood of content for like a year from now.
Oh yeah, agreed.
And welcome to the stream, Royce, aka A Drink with Crazy. Royce, what are you drinking?
Right now Bush Light because all my good beer's upstairs. But I had many a good beer on a stream with Shad and
Yeah, that was a
Mike
good stream.
and Literature Devil. Yeah, I so out of my element on that stream. Those guys are so much better at this stuff than I am.
I'm currently reading.
I
Shadow
didn't
the
mean to kick
Conqueror,
out Kikomon.
and that is something awesome.
What's up?
I said I'm just I'm about 30% through Shadow the Conqueror, and his world building is phenomenal.
I have not read the novel. I probably should buy it. But I'm so far behind on books. I'm so far behind. So James, I love you, and you literally got me to a point where I'm probably going to make this announcement on my channel on Friday night, but I won't. I will probably not be accepting any advanced copies or like introductions or like previews of copies of books and or reading them until I am currently caught up, because I got your book and I sat here and I looked what's in my email as well as what's in front of me physically, and I was like, I can't do all
It's
this.
overwhelming, huh?
Suffering
It's-
fast right there.
Time, dude. If I could just not sleep and just also not suffer a psychotic break like simultaneously, I would do it. I hate sleep. Sleep gets in the way of so much. If I could not sleep and I could have anywhere from like 4 to 8 hours a day just back and just have all of that for productivity and then go to work and do my normal day job and then just come home and have like, another 12 hours of day that I could just focus on all of the stuff I want to do, that would be awesome.
Funny you say that. I have a isekai fantasy novel that will be coming out next year, where part one of the gimmick of the story is he has like a Narnia portal in his closet to a fantasy world. Part two is, due to circumstances, he only needs 1 hour of sleep a night, so he has those 7 hours to go be in the fantasy world for exactly that reason, because sleep sucks.
Dude, I hate sleep. Sleep gets in the way of so much. It does.
Yet somehow it's very necessary, or else you have those psychotic breaks.
Yeah.
Well, and it we talked.
Coffee only works so long.
Oh, dude. Well, we talked about it briefly in when we were doing on the Gilded, and Kikomon had asked me in one of the voice chats, and I think a couple of you guys have actually asked me. They're like, dude, like you're doing videos every day, like you also have your day job, you're reading books, like and you still have to spend time with the family. Like, don't burn yourself out. And I wanted to remind everybody, like, I'm far from pushing my limits. I know where my limits are. And I am far from them, and I am balancing that time very carefully right now because I remember what it was like to live on energy drinks, Reese's fast break, and 2.5 hours of sleep for a month and a half.
Not a good health plan.
No, turns out it's not. Yeah, that was one of the worst. Like, I was in between meetings at work. I was driving from one meeting to another. And it was the first time I'd ever had a full-on panic attack. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there, I'm shaking. And I'm driving a car, right? So I'm behind the wheel of something that could kill somebody right now.
Mm-hmm.
And tears start coming out, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? Sorry, you said PG. I'm sorry. I apologize. But I'm like, what's going on? What's happening with me? My heart starts pounding out of my chest. I'm breathing as fast as I can, and I cannot catch my breath. And I am shaking violently. My chest hurts. And it was the craziest, like, I don't want to do this again thing. And after talking with my wife and my friends of like, hey, like I kind of had this thing happen, and they go, well, duh. And I'm like, what do you mean, well, duh? And they're like, dude, seriously? I'm like, please explain, because obviously you see something like you sleep 2.5 hours a night, you're eating a candy bar every day, and you're living on energy drinks. Obviously, this was not a recipe for success. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so, yeah, and so needless to say, I know my limits, and when I hit my limits, I don't even have to hit them anymore, because I don't want to do that, but when I encroach upon them, I go, yeah, you know what, let's back off for the night, let's just chill, and and reset from there. So yeah, but I hate
James
sleep.
down in the chat there. If I could get a channel established, I'd plan to do reviews. Got to get my studio set up in the basement first. Dude, let me know. I'll subscribe right away.
Dynamic microphone. Focus on sound. Video will come later. Sound is utmost of importance. People can deal with bad video. People cannot deal with bad sound. And I think what a lot of that is a lot of times, like, especially like if you are premium, like YouTube premium, it was YouTube Red when I signed up, but it's YouTube Premium now.
Same.
I'll turn a video on and then just, close my phone and then, go and, and
how many of us
do
use this as talk radio?
Wait, Drake,
exactly
pretty much,
didn't you put up a poll saying they wanted face or video, and everyone picked face? So
no, what the hell was it? It was face or voice. It was face or voice.
Mm-hmm.
Are you here for my face or my voice? And y'all chose face, and I hate you all for that.
It's so sexy. I mean, what can we say?
No, beard, you have it too well trimmed.
It's not trimmed at all. It's coming off in the next day or two, and so is some of the hair.
Oh, you should have seen it. He had long hair. You can go back on his channel and look up the older videos.
So that was what was funny too, is that's when I let like all of it grow out. Usually I take the sides and the back off. But when it's wintertime, when it's wintertime and cold as hell outside, I tend to let the hair grow out because cold sucks. And I'm outside.
Well, if you're at all concerned about the appearances of it, check out Trippy's face. That's how you deal with it right there.
Yeah. So when you're ugly, you gotta have one of these things on.
You're not
Perfect.
ugly, sir. I've seen ugly.
I'm going to be setting up my basement to explicitly look like Neo's
poses.
apartment from The Matrix. And it's going to be great. And I will definitely be hitting up the Gilded and everyone to help me fix the audio quality and get everything set up and smooth. Because that is something I'm going to try and take advantage of with this IronAge community, is crowdsourcing a studio setup.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the sneak peek right there.
Yeah.
Unreleased content.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
What we got? Infinite Money Glitch.
Money.
Nice.
AKA the
When's
Sentinel
that coming
Wizard.
again, James?
It publishes on December 5th. Get your pre-orders in now.
You got a link?
Yeah, I can get you the link. One sec.
Yeah, when I got that book, I was like, and you're on, I think you're on December 2nd, right? Is that shirt up?
Second with you. Yes.
Yes.
That's totally fine on the second.
Yeah. Friday. It should be a Friday. So yeah, is it not this Friday, but next Friday, James is on. We tried to get him on this Friday, but he's too important and releasing a book and
It's my birthday. I will be annihilated.
it's every time I hear that it's my birthday, I always think of that old 50s song, It's My Party, and I'll cry if I want to. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Anyway, my sister used to work into a 50s. It used to a waitress at a 50s style restaurant. So all they played was like, late 40s and 50s music. I heard that song more times than I can count. But no, we're gonna have James on IronAge Nights, and it's gonna be awesome.
Sweet.
And I'm obviously not gonna be able to read the whole book. I will. I'm going to prioritize at least getting a couple chapters in.
Yeah. So if you can read the first 4 chapters, I believe I structured the book to have like an Indiana Jones micro arc at the beginning.
Okay.
And then like the rest of the story is kind of the same plot, but much bigger and better. So if you can read the first 4, you're perfect.
Okay. So I will do my best because I have a 4-day weekend this weekend, which is great. But I also have a lot of vehicle maintenance and stuff. Tomorrow morning, I get to wake up and I get to do multiple oil changes on vehicles, charge up one vehicle. That's a long story why that vehicle has a dead battery. Anyway, oil changes, spark plugs.
For the last 2 months.
Do what?
So now you just reminded me of something that's blown off for about 2 months now.
Oh,
yeah.
I got to get that done before the snow flies here.
Yeah, dude, we've gotten so lucky in Iowa that not bad snow, dude. And it's beautiful this week. It's like 45 degrees out, sunny. The wind is not as bad. It's been gorgeous lately. And by the wind is not as bad. It's like a 5 to 10 mile an hour wind versus like a 20 to 25 mile an hour wind. It's just been freaking gorgeous this week. And so, yeah, I gotta do an oil change on the truck, an oil change on the Flex, and then, yeah. So, there it is. Ladies and gentlemen, what you are seeing right now is the Witness of Infinite Money Glitch by James Craig. Everybody make sure to go to Amazon.com and add this into your carts. James Craig has decided to take a fantastical route with his writing to make sure that he brings a full world of story to you. Make sure you go to Amazon or Apple Books, put it in your cart, and make sure that you order it day 1, December 5th. Sorry. That was impromptu.
Yeah, now I think I want to hire you to do a commercial for me, Royce.
Voices are fun, man. I love doing them. I love doing voices. And James Esparza, and I had to turn him down on it, but he reached out to me looking for like some voice work and stuff, and I was like, dude, I just don't have the time. But that little bug is sitting there, like, wait, could I do voices? Could I do voice? Like, is that a thing that I could do?
Yes, it is.
And, and it's sitting here just gnawing at me in the back of my head. I'm like
in due time. In due time.
I love doing it. Like, 2 of my favorites from back in the day were my one of them was more recent because it's really hard to do, but I love doing the Golem and Smeagol voice from the original Lord of the Rings. It's so fun. I love doing, and I love trying. I say trying to do the Mark Hamill's Joker. I love.
That's
They're
tough
just
to
so.
nail.
They're just so fun because you just get to just be kooky with them. And as a singer, I always love doing things that push my voice to its limits. And for everybody out there, if you're a natural baritone as a singer, you know the struggle because you're not a tenor, you're not a bass, you're right in the middle. So anything that you do outside of that takes work, and it takes hard work to get to anything remotely close to sounding like range, because baritone is the worst vocal level to be born with. And
I
so
think it's probably
anything
one of the best speaking voices a guy can have, though.
as a baritone,
As far
yeah,
as it speaking
potentially
more
because you can have
representation-
enough bass, because you can have enough bass in your voice that it actually overrides the mids. Mids are terrible. Like right now, I actually have my low tones turned up, my mids rolled down. So my low tones are up by about 20%. So my bass tones are up on my mixer about 20%. My mids are down by about 40%. And then my high tones are up by no, my high tones are right centered. My high tones are at 12 o'clock. So you know, but yeah, the baritone thing, because if you get really high, you know, because you start sounding like this and you really got to speak through your nose, and you know it's that old 40s and 50s style, because they the microphones, people didn't sound like that, just the microphones, just that's all they
the
picked up with the
transatlantic
mids.
accent, I believe it was called.
Yeah. You know, welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's time, but you know, and it was very, you know what I mean? It was really, really up there and stuff like that. And so no, but voices are fun. Voices are, you know, they're fun to do. It's fun to, like, I was thinking of Shadow of the Conqueror last night, and like what the difference is between old Dalen and young Dalen would sound like. And that was really fun to do because I got to sit there and I was like, well, wait. And, you know, and so I think I came up to the conclusion of, you know, old Dalen would sound something like this. He's weathered with time and he needs to make sure that his voice is very intentional with all of his words. He's very tired at the end of the day and just wishes that he could seek redemption. And then you get young Dalen, who, you know, and all of this is just a play on my own voice because that's the best. But, and then young Dalen, you just elevate the voice a little bit because he's a teenager, and you make it very cocky, very condescending, very, you know, very, you know, and young Dalen, he would be very much up here. And how dare you get into my, you know, things like that. Like, it's so fun to play with just the subtle differences in the voice inflections. The voices are fun. I love them.
Now,
Well,
as a
voices are
musician, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to bring this back into writing. Finding a voice of your character really helps drive the dialogue of that character. So I found out when I was writing my screenplay that I had to make sure in my mind the voices of all these characters were separate from one another. So I had my character of Bear, and he was just like kind of a big, grizzly old guy, or not really old, but like a big grizzly homeless guy. So it's like, oh, my name is Bear. I got a picture in my mind that he's speaking deeper with Bear voice compared to Shadow, who was like a scrawnier heroin addict, and he's softer spoken and kind of, you know, quiet but reserved at the same time. You hear those voices go off in your head that really drives the character's dialogue and gives more emotion to it. So voices like that are very important when you're writing.
So corollary, if you have a scene where it's 5 old men having a conversation, you probably don't want them all sounding like old men.
Well, no,
Yeah.
and that's where their personality
You got to separate them all.
comes into play, because, and some of them should sound old and some of them should sound more vibrant, because I know old men in my life that sound very vibrant. I mean, they're nearing 70 and they sound more vibrant than anybody here on the panel. You know?
If you ever read my second book, Ship of Fools, there's a couple chapters where there's like 3 like 60-year-old military types, and a couple beta readers were kind of like, yeah, I can't tell them apart because they're all 60-year-old military types. So I kind of screwed that up, and that was a learning moment.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I mean,
How do you separate
And-
that voice for your reader? Like the only thing you can really do is say this guy's this type of character, this guy's that type of character. And then
Well,
depends on your reader to be able to make
that-
that voice.
And
Hold on,
some
but there
characters
is
will
a
use
certain level of
expression, while
trust the
others
reader.
won't.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frequency.
No, go ahead, Royce.
No, you go ahead. It's your show.
I know it's your show, Frequency. You go.
Yeah, but you're more interesting. So
No,
than I am.
no. Stop that. I'll leave. I can leave.
No, but what I was saying is sometimes just the verbiage used, like some characters will use certain types of expression, while another character will say similar things but use different turns of phrases. And sometimes, you reach a point where this would sound more natural coming from this character, not that one. So and when you start to get that feeling, you're finding character voice.
So could you James, just to go off of what Wrangler just said, would it be easy enough, even though if they spoke in the same colloquialisms and they spoke, because obviously they're 60-year-old military guys, but would it be easy enough to just say, when you introduced each of these characters, to kind of describe this man, his voice, his gravelly voice matched the cigarettes that he smoked for a year, and this man here, he had more of a wisp to his voice because of the whiskey, or just basically give a description of to the readers of how the voices may sound, to differentiate, instead of describing physical characteristics so much, but describing a vocal characteristic to help the readers along with having three old guys talk with each other.
So that sounds like it would work, but I think you actually need to combine that with tweaking their word choice in ways that a quick reader probably wouldn't catch. And it's a subtle nuance to choose between someone like I read a book a couple months ago where you could clearly tell the difference between the woman was very neurotic and the guy she was talking to was incredibly direct with everything he chose to say. And with no description ever of like how his voice sounds, it was completely controlled by proper word choice on the author's part. On that's what you have to strive for.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
Philip's got a question for James. Do you need to read Faceless before getting into your other books, or are they all separate stories?
Currently, they're all completely separate. Ship of Fools is in the future of Bastion. There's like a one-line reference to the fact that, yes, it is the same continuity. Faceless, Ship of Fools, and Infinite Money Glitch are all separate. Next, my fourth book will be the sequel to Faceless, which is obviously going to be recommended to read Faceless first. But the way I'm structuring the detective series is each book is one crime, and Detective Blackstone solves that crime by the end of the book. And then you go to the next one, and it's a different archetype. So, like, the first one is a murder mystery. The second one is a manhunt. Third one is a serial killer. Fourth one is going to be up in the air right now. It's probably going to be another murder mystery, but I've got a cool idea of using an AI based on the victim's social media to give the clues of how they got killed. I'm still working on that because I'm writing book 3 right now. So they're going to build because you're going to know more about the setting. You're going to know more about the character and his drama with trying to reconcile with his wife and all that as it goes. But each book you should be able to pick up and just enjoy because it will still, at the end of the day, be here's the serial killer story. By the end of the book, he has resolved the situation. Maybe he doesn't catch the guy, but it's over.
But is there any continuity?
Well, of course. There's the detectives rise through promotions. There's him trying to fix. And at the start of Faceless, he's basically about to get a divorce lawyer, and he doesn't want to, and that's the series-long progression, is he's trying to fix his relationship with his wife.
We should hire Molly from Trippy's
TJ is right though. Readers miss a lot more than you think they're going to. At least I guess if they're on their first read, like stuff
Yeah,
you
but
think is super obvious, you'd be like, oh man,
Oh,
this is way too
yeah.
obvious, and then like readers read it and you're like, did you catch that? And they're like, what? No, and you're like,
But
what?
sometimes that's fun
Yeah.
for a second reread because
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
you pick up on
Exactly. That's
But-
why I kind of set up when I went to go write my screenplay. I made sure this thing is going to be rewatchable like every year. It's never you'll find this new detail every time.
I will counter though that just because they can't answer the question about it doesn't mean they weren't impacted by it.
So, and I gotta hate, and I'm not saying that. How do I phrase this without sounding like an arrogant ass?
You can't. You're an
Blunt
arrogant
will
ass.
work.
Just say it. Just say it.
There are a lot of times when but and maybe it's just because of how like I tell people, Dad taught me how to work with my hands, Mom taught me how to work with my mind, and and I'm able to kind of pull those two together. And so when I'm reading something or watching a movie, my mind doesn't turn off. And so there are a lot of times that, so for instance, I was going through the first chapter of Star Shatter, and I had mentioned to Black Knight that there was a sequence in that reminded me of the first Rambo movie, First Blood, for those of you who know the original title.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Oh, you caught that?" And I'm like, "Wait, that was a thing?" Like, that's literally just where my mind went, because that was the information that my mind had that was similar enough to the situation that was happening in the book, and I could pull from that piece of pop culture. In your experience as writers, do readers usually not do that?
Usually not. You sound like
Yeah.
a good reader.
I think most readers miss anything that's not just right up front. And I'm not trying to like bash readers or anything, but it's just
No.
I think that's just how most of them are.
No,
I think you're probably an outlier.
No, it's kind of coming into it. As I get older and I look back on like some of the things I watched while I'm younger, I'm seeing more of the symbolism and like more of the details of like the visuals and why this was set up this way. Then I wouldn't have been able to caught that in my 20s. Now I'm 30s. I'm like, it makes a lot more sense. But I've actually been kind of like studying the symbolisms of stuff like this, like the reasons why. Even when it came to my screenplay, like it came as soon as my protagonist came in direct contact with my antagonist, I had the time go so the sun is setting. So in the background, you see the sun setting on our heroes when things are at their worst for them, just that little trope, the sun is set on our heroes. I highly doubt anyone watching will actually catch that up, but it's just part of the trope that the sun is set at that point. It's getting dark for them. It's just that's the way it works. You're not going to know it consciously, but subconsciously, yeah, it has an effect on you. It really does.
Frequencies asking something in the private
Are you
chat.
guys okay if I
Thank you for the heads up there.
are you guys okay if I bounce and come back in about like 2 minutes? I'm just gonna switch over to my tablet.
Sure.
Because my chair is horribly uncomfortable, and I'm going to go out in the garage. And do you care if I have a cigar in your stream?
Not at all.
Okay. I wanted to clear everything with you, but
Kiko was asking the same thing.
I wanted to talk with all of you guys in the Gilded, and they're like, "No, we're on Wrangler stream." And I was like, "Well, I still want to talk with the guys."
It's just another guy's show. It's his rules.
Well, no, I just,
His house.
it's like
I'm not
when you call your
monetized, so it
friends
doesn't
and you're like,
matter.
"Hey guys, come over to my house," and they're like, "Nah, bro, we're all going over to Wrangler's house." I'm like, but I want to hang out with you guys. And you're like, "Well, then come over to Wrangler's house." I'm like, "All right."
If I keep doing this, I need to update my StreamYard so I can get more people in.
All right.
Yeah,
Right now it
seems
only
weird.
allows 6.
Yeah, that seems kind of weird.
It is.
Well, it's the
and
free
it's like
version.
$25 a month to do it.
And they and when I was reading it, it says charged yearly. I'm like, I gotta Oh,
Nope,
no, it's
you can
not?
do a monthly. It's $20 if you do the yearly, but they charge you an additional $5 to do the monthly, probably because of the additional times that they have to do the transaction, right?
Oh, well,
But
in that case,
yeah, you can do the monthly. Make sure you look for it, but you can do the monthly. It's like $5 extra. Probably again, it's the transaction charge most likely because you're doing instead of one transaction, you're doing 12. But
yeah, because this shows me free for 0, basic for 20, professional for 30 a month. When
okay, so
looking for
go
that-
to the basic for 20, and then make sure it's yearly. Make sure it's monthly because that's what I do.
Yeah, I'm looking for the monthly option.
Yeah, it's a weird spot, but no, it should do it.
Plus says upgrade now.
Yeah, do it.
And, now let's see. I was looking to find that before I hit the upgrade now. And
Yeah, like I said, they put it in a weird spot because they make you
Yeah.
think. And yeah.
hang on, it
All right,
wants-
guys, I will be right back.
So TJ, I know where you're coming from. I counter with a challenge that in Ship of Fools, there is an incredibly explicit reference to a very famous story that people know of, but often haven't actually read. And no one has pointed it out to me yet. Maybe that's because I have a small sample size, but I challenge everyone watching this to go get a copy of my book and identify what the reference is.
It's in Faceless.
Ship of Fools.
Oh, Ship of Fools.
Space Marine stuck on a refugee ship story.
All right.
Is it supposed to be Castaway?
No, he has 1,000 other people that are tearing each other apart. It's more like Lord of the Flies with adults because democracy is bad.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was telling. I think it was Kiko Man or even Jerko Crazy. I'm saying a lot of artists and writers we pull from each other. So 1984 would not exist without A Brave New World. An Idiocracy would not exist without 1984. And all this shit just kind of like pulls on each other. So even all your writing, my writing is pulled and taken from something we've experienced before. Because
Kiko, man.
So Trippy,
the
do
great
you-
stand on greats. The back of the I like to stand on the shoulders of the greats because that's
Sure,
what made
sure.
them great. And just keep going. Keep it going.
Trippy, do you listen to Jordan Peterson much?
I don't listen to him, but I know of him.
So on one of his less controversial things he discusses, I think he hits the nail on the head when he says that you can define the English canon by doing a rank order of all stories based on how many other stories they've influenced. And that's literally the definition of what is the canon, the most influential works of all time, because all stories influence what comes after them and are influenced by what comes before until you go all the way back to the Bible.
Pretty
And even
much.
that, you're talking about Zoroastrianism and Babylonian mythology and so on.
Mysticism, paganism, and then it goes down to the stars. They just pretty much watched the stars go around and made up stories for them. And there you go.
Stories is what holds a culture together.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like the whole storytelling is rooted in mysticism, like how tribes try to define the nature that was happening around them. There had to be reasons why things are the way they are, so they had to come up with this great story of why things are. They don't know it, but these stories were the best they could come up with. And there comes a point where I think it's like, you ever seen the movie Big Fish? I think it's all
Yes.
Big Fish. Yeah. And it comes to that story, like what's better? You can tell me the truth and it'll just be this boring ass bland truth story, or you could give me a story. It's not the truth, but it's a story. And I'll actually sit there and be involved in it and listen and listen to it because it's a story. It's more dramatic. It's better. It's not the truth, but it's a little bit better.
So if you get really down to the origins of storytelling, you have to look at stories as a way of preparing for the future, because the first stories are almost certainly, oh man, I got my stick, I got the pointy end on the end of it. I went against this mammoth thing and I stabbed it 17 times, stabbed it many, many times, and it died, and we ate for a month. Because that prepares the recipient for, hey, if I go risk my life and I take down that mammoth, that is a month where my entire family can eat. So you, from that knowledge sharing, you can get into more broadly deeper truths of how are you supposed to behave.
My daughter says hi, guys.
Oh,
Hello, Drink with Crazy's daughter.
Yeah, hello. She's glowing. She's glowing, and she waved, and she went back inside. Oh no! That daughter, she growls. She goes, and then she goes inside.
So I think that's probably what's driving people like Drink of Crazy absolutely nuts about current kids entertainment. Is the stories being presented to kids are not giving a proper model of what correct behavior is anymore. Because kids don't, it's like sarcasm. You only know someone's being sarcastic or ironic if you know how they're supposed to be sounding, and you can compare what they're supposed to be to how they are, and you can see that there is an intentional disconnect. If you're just sarcastic with a 3-year-old, they think you're being genuine.
right. They don't know yet. They don't know better. They haven't had the stories to tell them.
No, and where are the parents that smack a kid that does some bullshit around your yard or whatever?
Well, you remember when we were all kids, or at least most of us were kids, and you started acting a fool in the neighborhood, and like that parent came out and they were like, "I'm going to tell your parents."
No. My neighbor grabbed me by the fucking ear, dragged me all the way to the third floor in my apartment building, shoved my face into the fucking door, then knocked on the door and said, "Your son is a fucking wild child. Take control of him." And
Hey, James, I think
But you
I
were.
was getting a little sauce, so,
You're
No,
still a
dude.
wild child.
Dude,
I'm still
there
going to
was
do that to you.
parents in my neighborhood that would do that. There were parents, they would come up and they would grab me and they would hold me and they would call my parents, and then my parents would have to come to the house of the people that I pissed off and pick me up.
When I was a kid, the big question was when another parent saw me acting out, he's like, "Do you act like this at home?" And I always said no. And they would then proceed to be mad at me and yell at me. So one day I thought, every time I say no, they just seem to still be mad at me. So maybe I'm answering wrong. The next time a parent asked, "Do you act like this at home?" I said, "Yeah." Oh man, that was a wrong answer.
Yeah. When you think you're being smart, you're not being smart
as a kid. Yeah.
Hey guys, I gotta get off, but thanks for having me on. It was
It's
fun.
good.
Have a
Good
good
to
night.
have you,
Have a
man.
good Thanksgiving if you're American.
Yep, tomorrow.
Yeah, have a happy
Good.
Thanksgiving. I'm doing. Oh, hey guys,
Stuff.
I want to. I probably asked this in the Gilded, but there's a very good, because we're doing our Thanksgiving on Saturday morning. There is a very good chance that I am up at like 4 o'clock in the morning smoking a turkey, and I was like, I'm gonna go live at 4 in the morning smoking a fucking turkey. Do you guys want to see that? I don't know.
That'll be legit. That's a legit live stream. How many live streams have smoked meats on them?
yeah, trippy until you realize it's 2 in the morning for you.
Oh, I didn't say I was gonna watch it. I'm just saying that's legit. Go for it, man.
I might just go live in the Gilded. I don't know. I love smoking, dude. And I haven't smoked anything
Those picks.
in months.
You haven't what?
A turkey smoke with Crazy.
Dude,
Smoke with Crazy.
dude, after smoking a turkey, I will never do a turkey in the oven again for Thanksgiving.
Okay, so this guy has a deep fried. I ran out of space in my stomach. The first one that I had was a mole infused, so it was basically a chocolate turkey.
Ooh.
The second one was honey glazed
Ole.
Dijon mustard.
Ole.
The third one was habanero lime infused, which I didn't have enough room, so I missed out on that one. And the fourth one was a maple glaze, like a maple bacon glaze. So you had like 4 different turkeys going on.
good.
Why the fuck do you mix sweets with
PG.
meat?
Wait, have you never done that before?
You're
No.
not talking about glazing.
Okay, but it has to be done right.
Infused, like injected with this stuff.
It's not and maple, if it's real maple, it's not sweet, right? It'll have a sweetness to it, but it's not like sugar sweet. It's
Yeah,
not-
I'm lucky to be in New England, and I know what you mean.
yeah, you get it.
You guys are fanatics.
So you look at the picture I posted on the guild, it looks like burnt meat or like burnt skin. It's all black and charred. It's not black. That's just the dark
Skin is
chocolate. That's just the mole.
Good.
It was delicious.
Trippy, I want to dissociate with you from this point on.
Because he has a good taste.
Associate with me. Good sir, I'll have to have you down so that way you can actually have some good American food, because most of the American food that you've had, I feel, is not good.
Yeah, in Minnesota, I imagine.
Oh, I'll give you proper Russian food.
I'm down. I'm so down. You have no idea. I'm down. Not even. That's not even a joke.
You guys can have a
love
potluck dinner and stream it.
food from all over the world, because I'm not a well-traveled person. I would imagine that I probably will never be a well-traveled person. And so the best thing that I can do is meet people from across the world who have those recipes, and I get to taste just a little piece of their home. And sit down and share a meal with them and break bread, make my favorite foods for them, and they make their favorite foods for me. That's my version of traveling around the world.
Actually,
You know what we need to do, guys? IronAge cooking.
Oh God.
Actually, Billy Bobsack, if you can share your recipe for your cornbread that I'm going to try this weekend.
So a really
I
good.
and killed it.
What do you get a cornbread mix, or do you do it from scratch, Billy?
I do it from scratch.
Okay. We cheat a little bit, and we get the Famous Dave's cornbread, and then my wife, she adds however she does to it, and then she puts honey in the mixture as well.
I don't know how that turned out. I'm gonna be honest. I don't eat I don't know how y'all's cornbread is, but I don't eat that sweet cornbread.
We don't honey from the store. We actually use honey from the hive.
Bees.
Like
Yeah, from the bees.
we live in a good area, so we have access to a lot of that, which is really, really cool. But but cornbread needs to be light and like moist at the same time. You get a lot of people that just dry it out, and it's really bad. And if you have dry cornbread, it's one of the worst things on the planet.
Yeah, it is. It's got a little starchy stickiness to it. It all clumps together.
I use the self-rising cornmeal. You can use yellow or white. Then your flour, 2 eggs, vegetable oil. What else? A little bit of sugar.
What?
And then buttermilk.
What?
Oh no, but it's like
What? Sugar.
it's like half a teaspoon of sugar is how much
What?
you use, and it's a big
What?
mix.
What elevation are you at?
I'm fucking below sea level.
So you're below sea level. Okay, so keep in mind too, whatever time you cook, adjust for whatever level of above sea level you are, because that will radically change how the bread actually because the temperature of water boils differently.
I live at sea level mostly, so I lived on the coast, and then where I am, I'm right by a river, so I'm just like 25 feet above, if
Hey,
that.
Trippy.
So it was never really a concern for me. I never thought about that.
As an
Trippy,
example,
Philip Barges, I think
Barajas.
that's how you say.
Barajas.
Barajas. He just found out buttermilk's a real thing.
Yeah, buttermilk's totally a real thing.
They never heard of buttermilk before?
He lives in the same
Dude, it's
place
some
as you.
white people stuff. Come on. You gotta admit
No,
it.
I'm used to. I can kind of get it because is that the non-fat or is that what percentage is that?
The one
It's
I'm
like, bro, it's
using,
buttermilk.
low fat, but you can use whole as well.
Oh no,
Why would you get
don't
low
use
fat
Do
buttermilk?
not use low
What?
fat. Come on.
Why?
Ugh,
You
Oh.
can use either one.
Or
that
I'd
is
use-
good.
find a farmer that will give you some actual milk from the cow itself and use that.
Yeah, I usually when I cook, I either use heavy cream or whole fat milk. But I've never heard about buttermilk until Bill Babsack mentioned it.
Buttermilk is a type of milk that is actually milk that has been soured a little
Mhm.
bit because it's in the process of becoming butter, but it's not butter yet. That's why they call it buttermilk. And it's used in a lot of different recipes for various different things. It can be used for like buttermilk when you're doing, if you use instead of a heavy cream, you can use a half heavy cream, half buttermilk with a good white sausage gravy. Oh, on a biscuits and gravy.
Kiko, man, that's
whoa.
why I was trying to tell you earlier. When you smell buttermilk, it's not bad. It's just how it
Oh
smells.
no!
It's just, it smells like it's bad milk.
Like sour cream ain't bad, but
But it's not.
I love sour cream.
Oh, I hate
I do
sour
too.
cream. It's
I
horrible.
love sour cream.
Question, guys. Aimed at Asher Brunert. Are you AB on the forum?
What?
Is Asher Brunert in the chat? Is he AB on the forum?
In Gilded?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know about that either. Now that you asked that, I never put those two. Maybe,
Good.
maybe. Let's just see what he says here in the chat.
Yep.
That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Now the whole show is watching the chat. It comes full circle.
So here's one thing I want to say to all of you
He
guys.
said yes.
Oh, he is.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, fantastic.
Okay,
I
that makes a lot of sense.
So I keep getting all your guys' books and the stuff that you guys are doing. Oh, which by the way, Wrangler, my mom actually put your Bad Kitty book in her Amazon cart.
Cool. I appreciate that. And by the way, Sonnet's hands are working again, so tomorrow she's going to be autographing one of them.
Good.
That's fucking a miracle.
Good.
Sorry,
Yes.
but wow. Her recovery
So-
is every time you tell me like how much she's been recovering over the past month, it's just like wow.
She should not be here. She was dead
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
half hour. They were doing, she coded, they did CPR on her for a half hour, and they said, at first, get in here. She ain't going to make it 72 hours. And by the time we got there, said, sorry, she's not going to make it the night. And then she made it the night. Then she made it 72 hours. 21 days later, she woke up, but she was just in a fog, and they're like, she's probably not going to mentally be there. Now she's having full conversations. Her memory's back. And
Sign something.
She talked with us in the Gilded.
yeah, I typed that, but I was just
No,
I-
we were doing a live stream. We were live in Gilded, and she came up and she said hello to all of us. That was awesome.
Oh, that wasn't her.
No, that wasn't her. Are you sure?
Yeah,
Who's that?
she has not been on Gilded. Only once did I type under my account that Sonnet says hi. I just like she's
So, Drake,
I put quotes around it.
Dragonhawk's wife?
No, there was a woman that came up with Wrangler, and he turned the camera and showed her off, and she said hello to everybody.
I don't remember that. I think
Yeah.
you're mixing me up with somebody else at that
No,
point.
no, I 100% know that it was you. And we were talking.
Who was all in it?
It can't be that because Sonnet's at the at a hospital or
Yeah.
at a home. You're not
Well,
going to
no,
allow to record
but-
there.
Well,
Yeah.
Asian woman.
No,
Yeah,
no,
that's Dragonhawk.
yeah.
Oh, that
That
was
is
She was
Dragon.
the
Dragonhawk.
one who was the she used to draw and stuff, and
Oh, I'm sorry. That was. I apologize.
yeah, that's why I was
I'm
thinking Dragonhawk, because I've never.
Like,
I apologize, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, no
it's
problem.
all good.
That well, shit. That was almost what, a month? No, what, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I apologize.
Unforgivable. You shall
I
forever
haven't, I
be.
haven't seen him in chat in a long while.
No, I haven't seen him either. Does anybody know how he's doing?
I haven't heard from
Dragonhawk.
him.
I think he was on in a live chat like just last weekend with us. I think, or I was on there with him for a little bit.
Was he in the voice chat, or
Yeah,
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
I must have not been there then?
yeah. He's not there every night, but when he can pop in, he does.
The
Yeah. But anyway, tomorrow I'm gonna go see her, and remember I told you I was gonna make sure a special signed copy from both her and I. That should be being sent out to you sometime very soon.
that's awesome.
And as an appreciation for like putting all of us in contact with each other. So
You guys did that. All I did was put a drink with crazy on a room and in Gilded. You guys are the ones that you guys are the ones that decided to click the link, come in, and start interacting with each other. All of the good things that are happening in my Gilded are because you guys are over there talking with each other. With the new job and stuff, I barely interact with anybody, and I am very, very aware of that. And I'm like, I wish I could interact more. But the fact of the matter is all the good things happening over there have little to do with me.
Other than the fact that you kind of facilitated the whole thing. I mean, I know you got a humble streak in you a mile wide, but it's weird. You can be cocky and humble at the same time. It's quite the interesting dichotomy.
But you never thought you'd meet somebody like me, did you?
Oh, a few, but not many.
Well, yeah.
But
That's great.
it's just I don't know, something about you. You just had that gravitational effect that pulled us all in at the same time and got us all talking, and just because we're all talking is why this is all able to happen.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's a little bit special on the Drink with Crazy servers compared to Eric July's. If you go to Maca Hubs, he's got 700 people on there, but there's only like 4 that are really talking at a handful of time. Like during the day, there's only like 4 committed people compared to our 120 servers, and at least 12 of us on there consistently popping in, talking to each other. It's like a little bit, the ratio is like
Hey man, hey, whoa, hold up. Don't badmouth there. I showed the link in Hub of Max.
But
James is doing a good job over there too.
All the different pages, whether it's the comic books or whether it's the manga and anime or whether it's the music or whether different people in the server are talking in different places with what they feel they want to talk about. And I've noticed that like the tap room discussion pretty much has, the tap room discussion. And some people, there are more regulars in the tap room and, kind of like a bar, there are more regulars. But you go over to the anime and manga section, and there are different people talking over there.
Are you calling me an alcoholic?
Yes.
I think he calls you many things.
Trippy, Kiko Man, Frequency, going like every one of them. And then Trippy is always in the alcohol one. He is always posting in there.
I know. I look every day and I tell my wife, "Hey, baby, can you find something?"
Don't blame me for having a great variety of alcohol around me. More microbreweries in San Diego per capita than any other city in the nation. Just so many here. Drinks for days.
Dude, I haven't had a cigar
since
summer.
I love microbrew. So you should go check out the company that Rob Rhymes works for. This is Rocky Patel. Dude, go check out Rocky Patel, man.
You're burning your one end way too much.
Probably.
Yep.
So that's the problem that I have with smoking cigars is even smoking like cigarettes, I smoke hot, like I smoke fast, and that's why everybody's like, "No, you're doing it wrong." Yeah,
but you gotta slow down just a bit because you gotta enjoy it.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Cigarette. Look, listen. Cigars aren't like cigarettes. Cigarettes taste like shit. Cigars actually taste good.
Yes, they do.
Prove it, Billy.
What you don't seem to understand is I have a one-track personality. I either go hard or I don't go at all. That's why I have 4 kids.
Well, I see your ass, you know.
I was gonna say that's a
think the
great
muscle
photo,
came
Billy
from,
Bob.
Billy?
What is up with that photo, Billy Bob?
I fucking hate you for having.
I love this photo, dude. It was from that Sunday talk, and you end up doing that, and I end up catching it at the right fucking time.
Billy Bob, I do appreciate you leaving that picture mostly out of it till after 10 o'clock. So, oh, Eastern time anyway.
Well, I only put it up because I saw Drink was in the tap room trying to see where everyone was. So I thought, oh, he's gonna join. Perfect time.
No,
Yeah.
Number one,
Yeah.
IronAge daddy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least we were able to keep the language clean up till that point.
Read that on the stream, Kikomon. You some bitch.
Hey, Kikomon, you forgot the most important slogan. He's all ass, no balls.
no.
God, it's perfect. It's so perfect.
That's just mean.
Well, the no balls goes way back.
Some
Well,
deep
Now it's
channel
all
lore.
ass.
It goes back to like July.
That's OG channel lore. That lore is going to be around for years.
I hate it.
2 years from now, we're saying, is it drink with no balls?
Oh god. I talk with the wife all the time, and I just tell her, I'm like, I don't know what happened, how it happened, but I tell my wife, I'm like, baby, I don't know what's going on with this. I don't understand it. I don't understand why all of these people have congregated in the Gilded and come to the channel and support the channel the way that they do. And my wife, she'll counteract, and she goes, but to be honest, she goes, but you're happy, and I see how happy you are with what's happening with all of this. And I really am. Like, it energizes me. Like, I could be just dog tired, just obliviously tired. And the videos are harder to do because I'm not there with any of you guys. And so when I'm really tired, like, the videos are hard to do, but like, there have been live streams where I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I just don't know. And I start the live stream, or videos. I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I muscle my way through it because I'm tired or whatever. But then I go to a live stream. I'll have the same thing. And Philip, good night, good sir.
Yeah. Good night, Philip.
And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through a live stream and do this, but I can't not. Like, because YouTube doesn't want you to take a day off. YouTube doesn't like it when you take days off, and I recognize that. But more to the point, I'm like, how do I do a live stream? And then you guys jump in the chat, and it's just like an immediate surge of energy, and I can just feel that fucking energy level just climb, and it's, and then on top of that, like, I'll see everybody in the chat on YouTube just talking. And then because all of my computer, my tablet, my phone, they're all going off simultaneously because you guys are also talking over in the Gilded with each other, whether making fun of me or not.
More often, yes, but
most likely.
That's because the YouTube chat censor.
I'm working on that. I am trying to find another alternative to the YouTube, like, super chat thing.
No. I mean, like, the actual, like, chat log and shit.
Yeah, you can't say crap in
I
there.
put a drink with
You can't say
crazy,
crap.
number one IronAge daddy, all ass and no balls in Shadman's chat, and it wouldn't even fucking show up.
Well, one thing I noticed about your channel, and I don't follow any other channel that closely, but you usually get more likes than live viewers, which is shocking. I mean, look at every other live streamer. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, you got a great ratio going.
Also, you need to start clipping your Friday streams for videos. That way, you don't have
I
to
am.
constantly make videos.
I am. That's going to be what I do on my Saturday afternoons from now on.
That's how
Like,
you can feed the YouTube algorithm while you're actually doing your other videos.
Well, and that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to start clipping the Friday shows. And if I clipped the, my segment talking about Jason David Frank this last week because I had to. Like, there's that one was a big blow for me. Dude, my brother sent me a text message on that one. Like, and my brother's not, but my brother knows that like I was a Power Rangers kid. And so, but I did that. And so what I'm going to start doing is going back to my live streams. So Saturday mornings, I can't because, the kids are in, the kids have an activity on Saturday mornings. And then Saturday nights, I'm usually tied up with a live stream, which will probably, I'm looking for people to join. We need to get with Black Knight, but I'm looking for people to join with Black Knight, and we're going to do it's a D&D style campaign, but built in the world of Star Shatter for Black Knight. And so that's probably going to be my Saturday nights, but my Saturday afternoons and my Sunday afternoons, I can spend time clipping things out. And then my goal is to clip things out of the live streams and have a video come out about 3 p.m. every day from previous live streams. So you guys maybe have seen it, maybe you haven't, maybe other people have seen it, but it doesn't matter because it'll add like the video content to the channel and I can stagger that out. And that's one of the things that I plan on getting done.
Kind of like the best of moment clip, like
It's
the funniest moment.
just another creative process right there.
Well,
Yeah.
the Critical Drinker does it with his stuff all the time. The Critical Drinker will do his live streams, and then he'll post excerpts of like short conversations. Because you do, I mean, if you're doing what we're doing, which is a 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 hour long live stream, there's plenty of 10-minute clips in there that you can go, wow, this is a really good conversation.
Well, that's what Eric July does as well.
Yeah.
And
good method.
Yeah. And so that's something that I'm looking at doing. And because when I tell everybody, like I'm short on time, one of the things, and I'll be honest with you guys here, one of the things is like when I get off work, I come home and I do the video, and like I'll spend a little bit of time with like my wife and the kids, and then at the end of the day, like there's like an hour and a half when I just zone out, and I just before I go to bed, and what eats away at me is that zone out time is time that I could use for all of this, and I'm getting to a point where I'm getting more acclimated to doing all of this YouTube stuff where that zone out time doesn't necessarily need to be every day anymore. It might need to be every other day or maybe clip a day here or there, but maybe and it doesn't necessarily have to be video stuff. It could just be reading, reading the books that I have on my freaking desk that I need to get through. I still need to finish, books from Brian Asher, but it's one of those things that I'm like, so Jordan Peterson had he was, and I love the man. I think he's fantastic. I know a lot of people have issues with him, this, that, and the other thing, but Jordan Peterson gave a lecture years ago, and he would come in and he'd say, hey, Machi Chan.
Ooh, Machi.
Hey, Drink, is that a shadow or you got a mullet?
I never had a mullet in my life.
Trippy, does that not look like a mullet? I don't know if it's a shadow.
It looks like a shadow. Apparently, his mullet that he has on his old video is not even a mullet.
No, a mullet's a haircut. You guys do know that, right?
I mean,
a mullet is where it's like a buzz top up top, and then it's really long in the back.
So what was that hairstyle in the old videos? Just your hair?
Literally a buzz top up top, and then you just let the back grow out.
So those old videos are just long hair.
Dirt's hairstyle.
Huh?
I said they might know it as Joe Dirt's hairstyle.
Hey,
It's
Maji,
probably
check your
more of a Joe
DMs.
Dirt. Yeah, I will fully accept that my natural hair when it grows out, it's totally a Joe Dirt. It's not a
Comes
mullet.
in.
Because like no, seriously, like because the mullet has come back in modern days, and I've known
Yeah,
people
weird.
Ah, it doesn't know where I'm from.
It's
My
weird.
nephews had it.
I seen them. They've been walking around town, mullet
It's-
and a mustache is just like, yeah. How white trash can you look, basically?
Yeah,
I think it looks fine.
but no, like this is all. I'm cutting the sides and the back off probably this weekend. I'm gonna take it down.
That's no Wrangler. See, that's not the same. That's just long hair.
That's just kangaroo fighting hair.
Wrangler just
No,
If I
no, it's Bobcats.
It
Bobcats
does it
now.
behind my ears for The Office, but this is pretty much where it's at right now.
I just always want to look like a WWF wrestler.
Oh, you
I
want to
would
look like
always
Kevin Nash?
recommend the bus cut.
In this corner, we have Wrangler fighting the Undertaker.
No, you gotta call him Big Daddy.
hiding on that one.
But hey, Royce, what you were saying a few minutes ago about oh wait, well I gotta highlight that. What you were saying a minute ago about that zone out time.
There you go.
I think balance is very much an important part of the creative process because if you get too excited and you keep going, you can kind of screw your end result.
No, you're not wrong. And like I said, it's about anybody who is a creative type. Anybody. And creativity can range from minimum to maximum. Anybody who is a creative type, whether you're writing a book or just doing a YouTube channel like I do. I mean, keep in mind, there are days that I'm tapped and how do I creatively talk about a subject, right? And it is, where's my start point? Where's my end point? Sometimes I have a middle point in there, which is really awesome to have, right? It's
That
really
helps.
good to have that middle point, like, oh, good, I have three, and then I can just kind of figure out how to get from one to the other to the other. Most of the time, it's like, okay, here's my end point. Where the heck do I start? But anybody who is a creative type, I will say this, because especially when I was writing music and writing songs, and I have had the itch lately, and I need to sit down and I'm going to start anyway. That's nothing that I have right now, but
Actually, that's where I was hoping you were going because the primary topic is the creative process, and you're a writer, so I was hoping you would get into how you do that when you're ready.
I can talk about it for music, and it's been different with a lot of songs. It's almost different with every song, but the creative process and having the time it's like a muscle, and the more you work out that muscle, the more that you can work out that muscle, and that's where I'm getting with when it comes to like the time that you can the lay down time, right? The chill time. And it's why I'm like to a point where I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need to have an hour to an hour and a half every night because I'm working out that muscle and I'm getting more used to doing this stuff now. Maybe I can take a couple nights where I just, dedicate, solely to the reading and stuff like that instead of just 20 minutes or so. And we'll see how it goes. When it comes to the creative process of writing a song, dude, I have written songs in 45 minutes, and I have written songs that have taken me a year and a half. Because it's like, man, I have I have this lyrical idea, and I know what it needs to do, but I can't quite make it work with the musical aspect. For instance, I sat on a guitar riff for probably a month and a half trying to figure out the right lyrics for it. And I thought about family members of mine who have gone through drug addiction and all of that stuff. And I was sitting there and I was like, well, wait a minute. And I remember the fights and the arguments and the stuff with, you know, my parents and like just not good stuff, right? Like, you know, it's part of the reason that I say like I've not done bad stuff because I've seen what bad stuff does to people. And the song was called One More. And the song starts off with, it goes, one more night with my addiction. I promise it won't take too long. And once I got that initial line down, I was like, okay. Now, from the perspective of listening to the drug addicted members of my family and the fights that I've heard and the things that I have heard, what's the next step? Where do I go? Because I had the guitar riff down. And then the cool part is I had my guitarist, who is Matt. You guys have seen him on the channel.
Mhm.
He is Uncle Matt to my kids, one of my best friends. I have two. I have three best friends. One you'll never see on the channel. I won't mention his name here. But I've got Matt, and then you guys all know Convoy Bebop, who was hammered on my fucking stream last weekend. But you know, being able to look at Matt and say, hey man, so this is what I'm thinking, this is the guitar. And I go over the lyrics with him, and sometimes it's an evolution. Other times I had this one song, and I do have to cuss in this one because it's the name of the song. The song is called High Maintenance Bitch. That's the name of the song. And it is, and I called my guitarist and I said, I got this idea for the song. I already know exactly where I want to go with it. I was like, I need an AC/DC style riff, right? And the AC/DC style was and we actually got the wah pedal in on it and all that. It sounded really killer. And it was about this guy who gets involved with a girl. He's spending all of his money through credit cards. He's taking her out. He's buying expensive shoes, purses, and he's just like she wants to live this lifestyle that's just really hard to afford. And the hook of the song is, well, she's a high maintenance bitch, but she's giving it to me. And I know people that's happened to. They're like, man, I'm spending so much money on this girl. I'm like, why are you doing it? And they're like, dude, you don't know how she is in bed. And I'm like, really? like that's the thing. And it's, you know, and so when it comes to music, at least for me, every song is so radically different with how it's conceptualized, how it comes. Sometimes it can start with a riff. Sometimes it can start with a lyric idea. Sometimes you're screwing around. Sometimes you're intentional, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. And I would say this when it comes to music, I would say most of the time it doesn't work out. I cannot tell you the hundreds of ideas I've recorded into my phone, and I've gone back and I've listened to them, and I just go, nope. Hundreds. And out of hundreds of ideas, I've come up with about 20 songs that I was comfortable to record and put on demos.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you're trying to match your lyrics with an actual tune. Sometimes, like the two, they're both good, but they just can't seem to blend together well. Sounds very similar to trying to match the story of the characters with the plot you're trying to have them follow. Sometimes it just doesn't take.
Mm-hmm. No, it's 100%. You're 100% correct.
Asher's catching right here. For writing, the first line is always the hardest. As I was doing poetry, that's kind of where I wanted to perfect my description, kind of like learn how less is more. Poetry really kind of goes that way. So I was doing that for the longest time. And it was always the first line that I wrote down kind of dictated how the rest of the poem will go. So I'm looking through from my first lines right here. A first line, an easy path is too tempting to take. Beautiful land under the sun. A quiet thought in the back of the mind. So the first lines right there is going to dictate how the rest of that poem is going to go story-wise. You know, I kind of set you up in that very first line. So I got to kind of deliver from there on out.
So I always had issues with, I always struggled with the second and potentially third verses, because I'm a rock guy, right? You open up, you got a solid guitar lick or a solid guitar riff. You go into the verse, you hit that chorus line, you hit second verse, you hit chorus line, bridge, usually
And
a
the
bridge,
chorus.
solo, and then a final chorus or an out, into the outro. And
Mhm.
that's how I structured not all of my songs, because there's one song that doesn't follow that formula at all, and I love that song. It's so fun. But
Huh.
for me, it was always like the first verse was always like, oh, I got this, like I can do that. The second verse, I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Huh.
And and it's just like, what? It's like, because I think my problem is I take my entire concept that I want to talk about and I put it into that first verse. And if I was smart, I would either do one of two things. I would either, one, try to stretch that out, which doesn't work out as well as you think it does,
Uh-huh.
or two, be smart enough to expand upon the idea that I put into the first verse. And a lot of times I am just not there, and it takes me something. And then there was one song that I wrote that was called "The Gray," and it's more of an abstract in the lyrics, but the idea of it is people, we watch the news, and the premise of the song was that we watch the news, we see stuff that happens on TV, and there's these people that live really dark lives, or these people that live really golden lives. And I just live here in the gray. Nothing super dark is I'm just going to work, doing the day to day, and then you just see all this stuff happening around it. And that song was more of an abstract. I wrote that song in 45 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And it is it's probably up there in like one of the top probably 5 songs that I feel that I did artistically, and it just came to me.
Yeah.
Is any of
Okay,
your
so-
music available, or is it just kind of all kept personal?
Check out Merchants of Midnight on YouTube. You can find everything that I have released that is copywritten. That's been Merchants of Midnight. And it's all, the recording quality is not good, but it's there. You can check out everything I've done.
No, you posted one song. I heard one song from you, and it sounds like something at a dive bar. It has that dive bar rock sound it's just classic like that. It's pretty good.
You can check out, so pull this up, Wrangler. If you pull up Merchants of Midnight, one more, and then present that with audio.
Okay, I am looking
So-
for
so
it now.
Mr.
I'm on
Fowler-
Merchants of Midnight. Oh, there's a lot here. Hang on, let me type that in. One more, you said?
Yeah, one more. And it's bad audio quality. It's really bad. We recorded it in a basement. I really would like to get this song produced. And actually, from people that heard us live versus on the demo, they were like, we thought the song sucked on the demo. But then we heard you play it live, and we're like, holy crap, this is actually really good. And we're like, oh, that's cool.
It's so funny to think, when it comes to musicians, it doesn't really matter. Like, those first hits that they have are usually really bad recordings. Like, even think about Weird Al. His first recording was in a bathroom stall. Like, he recorded that song My Bologna in a bathroom stall, and it made him famous.
And that's
And I like his follow-up to that, 9 Coronas. All right, how do I present with sound?
So go click out, stop presenting.
All right.
And then you want to go to the farthest over. Is it?
I gotta use the restroom.
Go to the what?
But there should be a button. I think it's, so when you click on present, there are 3 tabs, and it's the one that's furthest over, and it says and then on the bottom you'll see with sound.
Share system audio.
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
And then
Okay, everybody ready for this?
no.
Excellent. Is that sound coming through?
No, it is not.
Nope.
Oh wait, there it is.
Oh, well,
Turn up the YouTube video.
there we go.
This was recorded in a basement. It was really bad. We were using crap microphones. Actually, you know what? Back out. Hold on. Check out, I think The Gray has a better recording quality. Type in The Gray.
Into YouTube?
Yeah, type in The Gray. So, Merchants of Midnight, The Gray. Heard The Gray, Merchants of Midnight. Yeah. That one has a better recording quality. That's the one, there it is. That's the one that I wrote in like 45 minutes.
And how's the volume for that one?
That's good.
Put it on the max just in case.
This one we actually went to the studio with, but it's still not great.
I can't seem to get out where I am. The window that I'm staring through is cloudier than hell. Feel like I'm screaming from the inside out. Though the day is young, my soul is old as hell. When I close my eyes, I can feel time erase to a place where the gray fades away. Take me out, take me out, take me out of the gray. Make my life a million more than the same. I can feel it taking over. Take me out of the gray.
Man, that audio quality on StreamYard is worse than what it should be. But yeah, so that's essentially, you know, what it is. You know,
that is a cool sound though. I'm a classic rock kind of guy, so and I need to. Boom.
My lead guitarist was hugely classic rock influenced, and the biggest problem that we have is that we never had top-notch production, and I wish we would have, because that would have been really cool. Like you think of Dan Vasc, right? Dan Vasc knows how to produce music really, really well.
You guys, can you excuse me for a moment?
Absolutely. Can you excuse me?
I'll be right back.
All right, we're taking over the stream. We're taking over the stream.
This is now the James Craig Show. I'm going to begin reading passages from my books.
Start reading some of my poetry.
Hey, did we actually lose Royce? I wanted to ask him a question. I just didn't want to interrupt the showcase.
It's probably even smoke.
He's in his garage right now. He can smoke on screen.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Trippy, face reveal.
What?
All right, it's time for your face reveal.
No. You don't want to see my face.
God damn.
You already posted the images of your face.
Everyone knows I'm a ginger. That's why I hide my face. No one needs to see that.
I already saw your face. What the?
Kiko, man, did you get a haircut?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it looks a
mostly
little
back.
shorter than last time.
Bill Robson is the only one I've never seen. I think I've seen James Craig.
I have not
Trippy's
done
seen
an
me. I
official
think
face reveal.
Royce has seen me.
By the way, James, your
Yeah.
your picture there, what is that?
That's the cover of the Ship of Fools.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I
that's
see it now.
right from the beginning when the planet blows up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew I had asked you that before, and I couldn't remember, and I'm like just seeing that on. It's a tiny little circle on my screen, not so I wasn't sure.
So
So
both
Trip,
James, Trippy, and Billy, why the fuck are you hiding your face?
I told
Uh,
you.
I don't want it on.
I don't have a good recording studio, and I think Dream recently demonstrated that it can be very beneficial to stay anonymous forever. There is good reason to not ever show your face.
you got a good point on that.
Oh yeah. No.
I'm just going to build some anticipation, is the plan.
I just don't want it on stream or anything.
So Trippy,
Hmm.
what do you do when, as you know, you're now into the writing? You've been doing poetry for a while. What do you do to get your ideas into the paper?
It's usually more of a feeling thing. So when it comes to poetry, if I don't feel like writing it, I can't force it because poetry is not really writing to me. It's more artistic. You can like kind of break the traditional sense. It doesn't really have to well, it has to make sense, but you could like write things out of order. Oh crap, let me see if I have a good one. Look at something I have older in time. Let me just read something. Hey, mind if I share something? Here's something like I first wrote when I first got back into it.
Go for it.
This one I call the Ghost Under a Tree. A traveling soul, being of its own, forever cursed to further roam. On this dust it travels home, fearlessly forward, ahead unknown. Long ago it killed its name, yet alive all the same. It wanders back from whence it came, and on this path it will remain. Something ventured, something found, something it finds quite profound. A magic tree of a different kind, sat in front of and steps out time. By a river, under a tree, now it sits quietly. From the river, eventually, a magic fish did fly free. Spoke to the ghost under the tree, saying, "Please stop hating, it's killing me." Back in time, on the path, it remembers that epitaph. Letting go and being free is to love unconditionally. With no fear or hate in heart, from all pain you will depart. So you kind of see there's a story there, but I didn't write it traditionally as a story. Right?
It's more like a sentiments rather than an
Things
event.
are out of place. Like the wordings are kind of out of place, but it still made sense, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
And that's kind of like
poetry has such a wide variety of stuff that it could go in so many different directions. It's a very free flow type of thing.
exactly. So, and if I don't feel like anything's there, I can't force it. So a story, you can actually kind of force the plot because you can actually force it to go along. Actually, as a story, I noticed when I was writing my screenplay, they say the story writes itself, and it's true. Like the characters are just kind of driving it along. Like you wrote some great characters and you put them in a world, and you just see how they interact with each other. And oh my god, here's a story. Animaniacs. Animaniacs is a great example of this because they're like kind of set alone characters. There's like an episode where they threw in different characters where they didn't belong with other ones just to see how they interact. And it's a funny episode, like just the way they interacted, just because the characters held their own and the writers didn't really write it. The characters are just that way. And the little premise they came up of in order to get from point A to point B had these things had happened. And oh my gosh, these characters are ridiculous. Look at them, you know?
Yeah, I
I'm not
had that
doing this.
happen in
Just look
my
at them.
writing where things I intended just never happened because it's like the characters
They have their
become
own,
their own entities, and
they
it's like,
will dictate it. It doesn't
yeah,
matter. It's it just kind of, and you're just there for along the ride, and you got to kind of make sure it's coherent towards another reader. If anything, you're just there to interpret their story to another person coherently, and there's rules because it's writing. I mean, we read a certain way. We have periods for reasons. We have question marks for reasons. These symbols exist for reasons.
Yeah. Now, what in your mind constitutes a character? That's very open-ended, I know, but what gets you thinking this is a character?
That's a great question. Okay, so in my screenplay, my favorite character is Tweak, and
Love the name,
she
by the
has
way.
Tweak, Tweaka.
Yeah, I love the name, is what I said.
Yeah, she has no dialogue. She doesn't speak a word. She has no character at all. All she does is laugh. She's a psychotic laugher. Like when we get to her fighting Sheena in the screenplay, because it's kind of set up like kind of video game, so she's like kind of a boss in the area and stuff like that. It makes sense when you read it. But all throughout the movie, all she's done is laugh. And at her fight, she has a knife and a flashlight, and she's chasing like a teenage girl in the basement of an asylum.
Flashlight,
a flashlight, not a flash, a flash, FLAS, flashlight. Because think about it, if you're just imagine a tweaker like crazy chick with a flashlight and a knife, laughing, just stabbing. Like you could have had the flashlight flashing at her and flash at that, just stab, stab, flash, flash, stab, stab. Just this is all this character did. She's just a stab, stab, laugh, laugh, stab character. Eventually, gets taken out by my protagonist. But for some reason, this one-dimensional character that had no dialogue, no personality, nothing about her really was my favorite character. It's like, well, how did that work? There's nothing about her. It's Tweak. And it's just like I wrote Tweak just because honestly I didn't want to make any more dialogue for another protagonist. And I was just like, whatever, crazy person that just laughs. Some tweaker homeless person that just now killer. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It wrote itself. She wrote herself. That character wrote herself. And it's not even like it's not really a character. There's nothing there. But it's like one of those settings, like it's just too funny, like you have to love it.
See, that's what writing characters, because I've come up with ideas for stories myself and writing and how you think the characters will interact. Nothing that I've released or one thing I would like to work on, sit down, write, fully get through more comic book style, just because this was something I came up with like 2 years ago. But I think but writing characters is so different than coming up with music. It's so different. I don't know how you guys do it. I've got a good idea of like this grandiose, well, not grandiose, but this arc that I would like this character that I want to work on to go through. And whether or not it ever comes to fruition, most likely not. Maybe not. We'll see. But the idea of having a character, I haven't gotten to the point in this thing that I've worked on where the characters take on really a life of their own, but I know the story beats that I want them to get to. And so, but how do you guys deal with that, where the characters get to a point where you go, well, wait a minute, this isn't the character that I wrote, so now I have to rewrite that. How do you guys deal with that?
I shouldn't be rewriting a character. Like, I don't know if James can agree with me, but oh man, I should pull up my.
Well, and I'm not writing the character, but as you like write the character, you realize, oh crap, this thing that I thought the character would do when I first thought of the story, because it's one of the story beats I wanted to hit, is not the thing that the character would do as I wrote the character. How do you deal with that?
With me, I find it's the dialogue. I tweak their dialogue more than anything because I feel like that's not what this character will say. Like, I don't feel it's hard for me to make them do what they would do because they're going to behave this way. That is their character. but how they would say things, like we're going back to the voice of the character, how we imagine these voices, how they imagine saying things is the hardest to me, because you really have to separate the characters by their dialogue. And I'd find like I'm using the word surely with the multiple characters, so I'm gonna have to like eliminate that word from another character because only one character should use the word surely when they're describing stuff, and little details like that.
My toughest part was, whoa, that sounds loud.
You're good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things I had issues dealing with is Haley and Elizabeth, because they're best friends. They do have differences in personality, but since they're together all the time, they speak in much the same ways. And I'm like, how do I differentiate these two? And so that can get kind of challenging. And as we were discussing before, the characters take on a life of their own and start to go out, and it's like this character is going to want to go in a different direction than I intended, the way I've established them. But then it's weird. You get to know them in a weird way. And like you said, they start driving the story. And that can be an issue when you're like, well, the plot was calling for this, and now that no longer works. I've had to scrap an entire chapter over that just once, or over just that once.
James, how do you handle that?
Okay, so a lot of answers were given. Please, could you restate your initial question so I can address it properly?
Initial question is, so you come up with your book idea and your characters, and you go, okay, I need to hit these points, and my character is going to act this way at this point. But as you're writing the characters out, you get to that point and you go, oh, wait a minute, the character wouldn't act this way, the way that I initially thought of them. How do you deal with that?
That's actually something I typically don't have to deal with because of the way I outline.
Okay.
Because I don't outline beyond like. So to use a abandoned manuscript as an example, I have a manuscript that needs like a full rewrite, where the idea is basically these alien towers appear all over the world. And people have to go into them like a dungeon and clear floors to get like alien technology and stuff because an invasion is coming. And there's some weird stuff about resurrection and cloning and so on. So I know from the outline that this is my main character. He's borderline suicidal. That's why he's happy and gung ho to go fight aliens, because it's cool and interesting. And I know the structure of the story is he has to clear all 10 floors, get to the top, and meet the guy in charge, the architect of the Matrix, sort of. And that kind of outline is never in danger, because there's the obvious reason of why he has to do it is already answered. And by not outlining beyond that, when I start introducing other characters, and I go, like over here, like I've actually got a pretty good relationship building of he needs friends to support him through this because he can't do the missions by himself. By not outlining that and then writing the story chapter chronologically, I get to let the characters just do what they do. As long as I'm following that initial plot, it generally works, although that manuscript got scrapped because I basically wrote an unlikable character, but that's a different problem.
So, James, do you have when you're outlined, do you have your outline for your plot of your whole story, and then like a separate, like basically character sheet for individual characters that are inside the world?
No, I typically don't need like character sheets or anything.
Really? So I'm at for my novel, I had my characters in mind, and I had to make little details about them first, and then I have my outline for where these characters are going to move to accomplish the goals for my story. But I felt like having a whole character sheet just kind of helped me get into this mindset of making characters. You're more used to it than me, so I'm sure it's just like natural to you. But for me to get into that mindset, I really had to build them up.
It depends on how much how much screen time, air quotes, the character is getting. So, like, if you know the guy is getting killed off in the first dungeon because you have to introduce the giant Minotaur monster and make sure it's threatening, therefore
Right.
you kill a bunch of people, like, you don't need a character sheet for that guy. You can pretty
No.
quickly establish, he's a YouTube live streamer that's clout chasing and kind of stupid.
Appreciate it. Thank
Not
you.
one particular in this.
I wrote this before I met you.
You don't have to attack me that directly.
Just don't get in a labyrinth with a Minotaur, all right?
Noted. Noted. Thank you.
But counterpoint is, if I say in my web novel where there's the woman that he ends up getting married to, yes, I have a character sheet for her, and I have a full background to, like, the wizard from the epic fantasy and what he's on, what he's doing, what he's motivated by.
Right,
Your
main protections.
if I know it's a short character, I don't stress about it. I just make sure that the few pages that are there is engaging, and no one needs the background to, why is this older guy so calm about aliens? It's implied that he was in the military. He doesn't stick around long enough because at the time, the protagonist wasn't very heroic.
Right.
Now, Asher Burnett said, "This happened recently in the book I'm writing. One character had a skill they should not have had. However, when I shifted things around, I realized I killed 3 birds with 1 stone." Hey, James, you're very methodical and you're very grounded in how you approach writing. So I'm wondering, did you ever have a character that surprised you and became much more prominent than you ever intended?
If you go back to other manuscripts from before my publication, there was the first times I was writing in Bastion. It was actually 10 years after Faceless.
Yeah.
With, some of the different characters. Basically, it was an action series. And I realized that I started trying to write this action series about a guy with an AI in his head, that the AI can see the future. And some stuff and conspiracies and betrayals and all that was going on. And by the time I wrote the draft, I got to the end of it. And I was just like, you know what? His best friend, who's just a dude that can program well and runs a business, is actually like one of the most likable characters in the entire book. He really needs more screen time. He needs like an entire backstory, possibly a book dedicated to him himself. So yeah, it can happen, but it hasn't happened recently.
Yeah. I like this. I realized I killed 3 birds with 1 stone. Like, I had one character that became so much more than I ever intended. In fact, let me see if I can.
Well, and I think that speaks to different writers. Is there are writers out there who have a story and they are going to work methodically to make their characters fit within the story that they want to tell, and then there are other writers who have a story they want to tell and they want to go on the journey with their characters, and neither one of those are incorrect. It's all about the execution of that particular writer.
All right, so here's a good example, actually. If you look at my Bastion series with Detective Blackstone, I know with these manuscripts how the crime is going to go. I don't know by the end of the book how his relationships are going to be with the people in his life.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like I said before, what's going to happen is the plot. What happens with the characters and how they change, I think, is the story.
Exactly. I have several beta readers complaining, like, why are you setting up adultery? Why is he going to cheat on his wife? I'm like, well, it's good that you see the temptation there. You're jumping ahead of yourself if you think that's a done deal, though.
Yeah, honestly, when I got to that part, I was sitting there going, oh, that temptation's being rubbed in his face, and all of a sudden, I just had that feeling he ain't going for it, because he's suddenly going to pop and go, thanks for the idea, and like start going right back to what he was working on. And your beta readers all thought he was going to go for the temptation?
They currently do, yes, but they haven't gotten to the end of Dateless yet. So the jury is out on whether or not I've paid off the character desires and conflicts.
Yeah. Anyway,
A lot of that's got
I'm
to do
gonna
with
wrap. I'm gonna wrap the stream up in about 5 minutes here. Anything anybody want to get out there about the creative process before we do?
Don't be afraid. Go do it.
I think it's like a habit. I noticed I fell off the habit of not writing poetry. Like I came home every day and I was slamming one up. I think Royce mentioned earlier, it's like a muscle. You know, once you start working it, it becomes stronger. It becomes easier to do, to bang this little thing out like once a day. And then once you fall off for a few days, I sit back down and I'm like, it's hard to get that first line out even. I'm like, what am I doing here? What am I trying to express? What am I writing? Like, geez. But I know it's like a muscle. Once I get back into it, it should become a little easier.
I was just talking with a friend of mine earlier today about just trying on YouTube, and the biggest thing for anybody doing anything creative, and my YouTube channel is it all comes from up here. None of it is scripted. Maybe one of these days I can have enough time to do something scripted and fully thought out, but it's all up here. The biggest thing that will kill you creatively is when you sit down and you go, and having chill time. Like my chill time is I come home, I sit down, I'll drink a beer, I'll have a smoke, I'll think about what I'm doing, and then I'll go do it, because that's part of it. But when you sit down and you go, I just need 5 minutes. No, stop right there. No. That thought in and of itself, I just need 5 minutes to just not do the thing that I want to do, is dangerous. And it is dangerous because 5 minutes turns into 5 days, turns into 5 months, turns into years. Don't give in to that. Make sure you structure your downtime with your productivity time. It is hugely important. Don't let yourself give in to those moments where you're just like, I'm just going to sit down and do nothing for a while. Because, and be comfortable with that. Never be comfortable with just, and it's when I have my downtime, right? I took an hour the other night. I played an hour of Modern Warfare 2 with my buddy. And I said, hey, dude, I got to jump off. And I jumped off and I came and I kept reading, right? I cleared another chapter of Brian Asher's Assassin of Malcozé. And the reason that I did that is because downtime and being comfortable with doing downtime instead of what you're doing, instead of what you're trying to do, is dangerous. Having structured downtime and having that downtime, okay, I'm going to have this much time a day where I can have downtime because it's healthy, is good. But when you sit down and you go, oh, I'm just going to not do this thing it's okay for a night. It's okay to just not do my YouTube for tonight. It's okay to just not write tonight. It's okay to just not, work on my props for my animated film that I'm doing for tonight. It's okay to, no, it's not. It's not okay to not do those things. It's okay to have a structured amount of time in your life for downtime. It is not okay to not do that thing that you want to do. And to quote my good buddy Convoy Bebop, can't stop, won't stop.
Stop, won't stop.
Stop. Just think about that when you sit down and you go, God, I don't want to do this thing. And when you have that thought, God, I just want to sit down. No, go. Push through that barrier. Break that barrier. Own that barrier. Because that is the barrier that will stop you. And you do not want the thing that will stop you to be yourself.
If I could just add to that, one of the things I like to do sometimes, because I am very susceptible to exactly that. So one of the things I'll do is when I know, hey, around this time I want to sit down and get working on this, I will go and set everything up in place, ready to go. So when that time is there and I walk by and I see it, and it's like everything's already set. All I got to do is put myself there.
Yep.
And just having those things in place before my intended time really makes a difference with helping me stick with it.
Yep.
How about you, Kiko?
No, I would say the same. Don't stop.
Don't stop.
Find your passion. Go ahead with it and make it happen. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah. And Billy Bobsack.
Same.
Out.
Ouch.
Ditto. Mike.
Mic drop.
All right.
I will say this. I give Billy Bobsack a lot of crap on my streams, predominantly because I hate him. But most, I love having him.
You love to hate him.
I a little bit.
We're a happy family.
I love to love and hate him. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. My
Hey,
relationship.
we're all walking dichotomies here, so.
But yeah, just don't stop, guys. Don't stop. Whatever you do, don't. It's fine to sit down for 5 minutes and collect your thoughts. But when you have that thought in your mind that just, God, I just want to sit here for a little longer. No, don't even have that thought in the morning when the alarm clock is going off and you need to get out of bed. When you have that thought, God, I just want to lay here for another 10 minutes, 5 minutes. No, get up, plant your feet on the ground. And dude, and that's something I fail at a lot. A lot of times I succeed at it. But just even in the morning, and that's where you start, gentlemen. You start in the morning. Oh, I just need another 5 minutes. I just need another 10 minutes. No.
Yeah, snooze button is the enemy.
Dude.
Don't let failure discourage you either.
Don't. No. Failure is the path to success. You fail enough times, you will find success.
If you do not fail, you will not. If you do not fail, you will never find the path to success. You have to fail. You have to keep trying. Without failure, you will never learn.
And you tweak it. And you tweak it just a little bit. And but that's the key. Just don't. No more 5 minutes. And it's tough. And that's not to say every day. That's the goal, right? Every day. You say, oh, I just want 5 more minutes. No, bam, you're done. Your feet are on the ground in the morning. Maybe it's 2 minutes one day. Maybe some days, dude, I still have them. Some days I wake up late as hell for work and I'm just like, already failed the day. But you know what? But if you recognize it, you can change it. Recognize those moments. Make them different. It's the biggest thing that I can tell people that has really affected me is those moments when I sit down and I just go, I just don't want to do the thing that I know I should do in place of just sitting here. Like tonight, I did it tonight. I sat down and guys, and I did it tonight for this stream. I sat down, I was watching Wrangler, Frequency Tuesday, this, and I tuned out for a minute and I clicked on, I've been checking out some new animes lately because I need something to watch. And I clicked on watching Tokyo Ghoul right now. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go watch Tokyo Ghoul. And I clicked on that and I watched that for about a minute and a half. And I went, no, this is wrong. Because my boys are live right now and I need to go support my boys. And it would be wrong of me to sit here and watch a show and not go and support my boys. It would be, and it would have been wrong of me. It would have been critically wrong of me to do that. And so I said, you know what? No, I doesn't. And I just wanted to sit down and just zombie for a while. Right. But guess what? After I'm done supporting my boys, I get some time to zombie. And that's good. And I know when that time frame is. And I did that tonight, and I almost did it tonight, and I almost gave in tonight. I was that close to giving in and not coming here and talking with you guys and not sharing these conversations and sharing these ideas and my fucking terrible music from years ago. But I was that close, and that's all it takes, is being that close and closing that gap to being there.
I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all of you coming on. I think some good concepts were put out there for folks to consider who are trying to pursue their own writing careers or whatever creative medium it may be. But I'm going to wrap it up here. So everybody, thank you so much. James, Trippy, Royce, Kiko, Billy. This was a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is a great time. So
Thanks for us.
yeah, and everybody out there, have yourselves a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. And
Oh yeah.
well, I guess I should say my usual corny outro here. So if you enjoyed this presentation, hit the like. If you didn't, I appreciate you dropping by. See y'all next time, and God bless.
God bless.
God bless.
Oops, wrong. There we go.